Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show is recorded on June 28th, 2016. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me as always, more hyped up than usual,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will be discussing our Steam Sales special giveaway, the games that we've spent way too much money on during the Steam Sale, the games that we of course have played this week. We'll be discussing how Activision goes nuclear on Project Orion, Xbox Fitness is being shut down, we'll have our weekly community corner, and we've poked around and found some good sales, or good deals. I'll fix that in post. We've poked around.
No, you won't.
You're right, I won't. We've poked around and found some good deals on sales, on Steam stuff. There.
Wait, I was supposed to find good deals?
Well, I mean, that was the point of us finding deals to recommend.
Yeah, well, shit. Hang on.
I got the good deals and you've got the bad deals. How are you today, Rage?
A little bit more caffeinated than usual. The neighbors are working on their back porch.
Yes, indeed. And because you're nocturnal, that means that they're working during normal people's waking hours, but keeping you awake.
I have you know, I'm perfectly abnormal.
Nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs to be at least a little bit crazy. Some people just are a little more than others.
Hey, you have to have that spark of madness, and you must never lose it. I learned that from Robin Williams. But then again, you know, he had the spark a little bit too much.
As much as I love Robin Williams, he did kill himself, so maybe a little bit too much. And that took a dark turn within like the first 2 minutes. So
I'm showing a minute 30 already.
So let's instead liven it up with some discussion of free gifts for our listeners.
Yeah, damn, I can't try to take your money this time.
Well, I got you a gift. We'll just see how it turns out because it's related to the Project Orion thing, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So, since we are a podcast, and podcasts do giveaways sometimes, and
we have to buy love.
The Steam sale means that we can get games to give away on the cheap. So I decided that we should do a giveaway. The way that you enter the giveaway is to email us, videogamelogic, or vglpodcast@gmail.com. Apologies. I was thinking about the blog. But anyways, email us with that and tell us that you have shared the podcast with someone. Tell us who you shared it with. And then give me your Steam email address or your Steam username so that I can find you. And I will do a random drawing to give...
Actually, I may have an interesting way to do that for a video.
Okay.
I'll have to share with that you off thing, but it will still be very random.
Okay. But I'm going to do a drawing. There will be 2 runner-ups who will receive a game. It was going to be the Orion project, but depending on how that turns out, I might find another game to replace it with. And then the grand prize, or the first place winner, however you want to look at it, I will go through your Steam wish list and pick a game costing up to $20 to gift to you. So, enjoy games and share us with your friends. You also can tweet us this information, but it's up to you whether or not you want to put your personal email and stuff on Twitter. I mean, if you want to do that, that's totally up to you, and I'll enter you in the contest. But the email allows you to keep that private from eyes except ours.
Yeah, I'll be able to see your personal email out there. Sorry. I've been told by my friend never to use that voice on her. Don't know why.
It makes her all tingly down under, if you know what I mean.
Oh my.
I mean, it makes me all tingly down under, so I can only imagine what it would do.
Wait, what does Australia have to do with this?
Oh, everything. So, just send us just a quick recap in case that was confusing, because we, as always, got a little bit off topic even in the simplest things. Send us an email at vglpodcast@gmail.com that says that you shared our podcast with somebody and who it was. And if it's a funny story, you can put that in there as well, or an interesting story. And then also include the email address that your Steam account is tied to, or your Steam username, whichever you're more comfortable with. That way I can gift you the game on Steam.
Yeah, you're forgetting one important thing, though.
What am I forgetting?
A deadline.
Oh, good point. The Steam sale ends on July 4th. So you have that's 72 hours after the podcast releases.
Yeah,
but
maybe
I will be
you should have
doing
done this last week.
Well, I will be doing this on Sunday. So you have until Sunday evening, let's say 48 hours after the release date. Because I know that we're listened to by people in very different time zones than us.
Okay,
So,
I'll also put this on a separate tweet from the usual release.
yeah. So,
I'll probably put it out a little bit early before the podcast release, if you don't mind, to give people more than 48 hours.
sure, go ahead. But 48 hours after the podcast releases is when the deadline will be. And that means that I'll do this on Sunday afternoon sometime.
All right.
So, that way everybody
You
can
have
get their
till
games.
12:01 Sunday afternoon Eastern Time.
Yep. So, there all that is. Clear as mud.
And I'll have to share my possible method of doing the drawing with you because it's interesting.
Sure. I was just going to put all the names or the email addresses or whatever in a randomizer, and the top 3 were going to be the winners. But if you have a fun way to do it, then we can just...
Oh, I may have a fun way to do it. Let's
Okay.
just put it this way. I have a game that I got a review copy of that's Hunger Games.
Oh, interesting.
AI Hunger Games.
Okay, yeah, that would be fun. But so, continuing on with the theme of the Steam sale, let's talk about all the games that we purchased over the
Yeah,
past
our
week.
Steam sale damage. And you took a lot more damage than I did.
Yeah, I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games, and then a Steam controller.
Yeah, and I have 6.
Okay, so...
But I'm also holding on to a good chunk of change for RimWorld that comes out in July.
Yeah. Since there's no more daily deals or anything like that, basically on Thursday I was like...
Yeah, the overall deals haven't been as good because of flash sales being gone. And Total Biscuit did a video talking about how flash sales and stuff are really anti-consumer. And I'm going to disagree with him, partly just because it doesn't mean that... It means that we don't get as good of deals as we used to, but also it would be a lot more pro-consumer if Valve's notification system wasn't absolute shit.
Yeah.
It takes them a good 12 hours for a notification to get to my email that the Steam sale was on. There is no way that a flash sale could have worked. And the Steam sale notifications on the mobile, well, let's just put it this way. Sale notifications on mobile to begin with are just terrible because it says, an item on your wish list is on sale. Well, thank you for that information. I have a couple hundred games on my wish list. Could you care to enlighten me which fucking game it is?
I wonder for the exception to that, though. Like, most people, because I've done a couple of these giveaways, and most people only have, I don't know, 20, 30 games on their wish list, tops.
Even then, 20 or 30 games, that's still a fair amount to sort through to try to find which one went on sale. Would it kill them to have the notification say, game name is on sale?
The email that you get has the game in it.
Yeah, usually. I've had times that's been completely blank.
And immediately, also, we're off topic on this, too, because we're going to talk about the games that we bought, not how
Well, what was getting into, Steam sales aren't as good as they used to be. It's not just us being veterans of Steam sales. So it is technically on topic.
Sort of.
Hey, I'm technically correct, which is the best form of correct.
That will be slightly off, of course. And I won't fix it to make it sync up properly. Because that requires work. So do you just want to list off your games?
Yeah,
And then I'll list off
a
mine.
couple of my games I'm going to go in depth into because I played them. One very heavily this past week, and one somewhat heavily.
Sure,
And then
that's fine.
a couple of these are also going to be upcoming YouTube content, most likely. And then one is just going to be for fun in a DLC.
Okay. My
Okay.
intent is to just go through and list them and like why I bought the game and maybe a thing or two about it, but
right,
you can go
well-
ahead and go first.
Okay, I got The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, which may end up on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure. It's an indie mystery walking simulator. It looks very interesting. It has very beautiful graphics, especially for an indie game, but just in general. And it has a lot of good reviews, and it was cheap. City Skylines After Dark. After I get over my obsession with a game later in this, I'm going to go back to City Skylines, and this was the better of the expansions, and the other expansion wasn't nearly as cheap, if I recall correctly, or it was about the same price, and it wasn't nearly as good price for content. Victor Vran. This is a action RPG that also is likely to end up on my YouTube channel at some point. It has an interesting looking weapon mechanic that I didn't look too closely at, but it was also, once again, very cheap, and it's been on my wish list for a while. South Park, The Stick of Truth. After just falling in love with The Fractured But Whole, I realized I needed to go back. Yes, I know. I chuckle at the same
I am a child.
I realized that I need to go back and play The Stick of Truth, and I wasn't going to pre-order The Fractured But Whole. Pause for chuckles. So I got it, once again, pretty cheap, and this game does have a little bit of controversy just on that it's a 30 FPS lock, but I think this is one of the few cases that it actually makes sense because it is emulating the style of South Park.
Right.
So this is one of the few cases that you can argue that 30 FPS is cinematic. Especially if you consider the movie. Stardew Valley. This I knew was going to be dangerous, and I'm going to talk about it later on.
Okay. And
Dirt 3, because I wanted a racing game to try out with my controller, and I'm also going to talk about this a bit more later on, so we'll just skip ahead to there.
Okay.
And that's my list, at least for now. I may get one or two more things at the end of the sale. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, I'm holding on to a bit of money for RimWorld because I know that's going to become an obsession as well. But I don't know exactly what price it's going to launch at. So I'm holding on to about what I'm expecting it to be.
Okay.
Which is kind of stunting what I would usually get in the Steam sale to begin with, but oh well.
All right. My turn?
Oh, yeah, it's your turn. Go for it.
Oh, I'm going to go for it, baby.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, so my first game on my list, and these are in no particular order for me. The first is the Orion Project, which I'm a huge fan of Orion Prelude. It's just like a stupid first-person shooter horde mode game where you kill dinosaurs.
Yeah, I only played it for that one evening, and I just never felt the need to go back to it.
Yeah, but I mean, you know me. I love stupid, silly, ridiculous things. And so, like, they've had a couple of games that they've worked on since then, and they all got kind of bundled into the Orion Project. And I was like, oh, hey, this is 49 cents. I'm absolutely buying this. So I did.
And then Activision happened.
Yeah, but that's for later. Then Convoy. Convoy is probably the only game that I've seen since FTL that I feel can pretty accurately be described as FTL-esque. But it's on the ground and instead of in space. It's still sci-fi themed, but...
what does our title have to do with this? Our theme, I mean.
But I saw a WTF is from Total Biscuit on this game several months ago, maybe even a year ago. This game's been out for a little while. And I was like, as soon as this goes on sale, I'm going to buy it. And it's not had a good sale until this summer sale, so I picked it up. I bought the Halo Spartan bundle, which includes Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike. These are both top-down twin-stick shooters. I've got Spartan, whichever the first one is, I think it's Spartan Assault, on Xbox. I got it as a free game some time ago and never beat it. And I really enjoyed it, but it, again, falls prey to it's on my Xbox, and I almost never play my Xbox, so... The bundle
Xbox suddenly wakes up, it's like, oh, play me.
The bundle's like $3. So I was like, yeah, I'll get both of those for $3. That's worth it. I got Tales from the Borderlands. I love myself my Telltale games. and most people say that Tales from the Borderlands is the best one that they've done. Except
I've heard
for
a lot of people say that for The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead was good, but it was the Jurassic Park one was the first one they did that was that style. Then The Walking Dead, but The Walking Dead was really good, but most people have said that Tales from the Borderlands is better because of the world that Borderlands is.
Yeah,
so
I think,
dropping a story into the wackiness is it's a good fit.
And somebody forgot to turn off their phone.
That's Katie. That's not me.
Oh,
she's
Katie forgot to turn off her phone.
She's watching TV on the couch.
Hi, Katie.
So next is Please Don't Touch Anything, which we've talked about before.
Yeah, I brought that up quite a while ago. It's one of my just toy games, which I kind of wish I had it on Android more than anything now.
Yeah, but I was like, for 99 cents, I'm definitely going to buy that. Then I bought Galactic Civilization 3. I love Galactic Civilizations 2. I've played that game for years and years and years. I have played it for many hours on Steam. And I wanted the third one for a while, but again, it's had several sales where it was not a very good sale price. And then I was like, $14. I'll pick that up. Then I've got my 2 Sakura games, Sakura Swim Club and Sakura Beach 2. And, I mean, you guys have all heard me talk about those many, many, many times, that style of game. So, anime girls and...
Katie's busy.
and visual novels. I'll go around the Steam controller and come back to that last. Then Doom. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I've talked about it multiple times. I was like, if it's like 50% off, I'll buy it. I might buy it if it's like 40% off. And it was 40% off. And I was like, I'm buying this. Because especially since in like an hour and a half, well, I'm not sure exactly what time zone that they're in, but in an hour, it will be the 29th of June, which means that I can buy the AMD RX 480. So, did you see the second set of leaked benchmarks?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff around that. I'm probably still a couple weeks away from picking it up myself.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to see some post-launch stuff and working on getting a little bit more money for a couple other things to get while I'm getting something from most likely Amazon, to be perfectly honest, because I have like $50 on gift cards there.
Yeah.
So may as well bundle it all in, assuming that Amazon has it. If not, then it's probably going to take me a little bit longer just because I was including what I have gift balance there.
I hope Amazon has it. If Amazon doesn't have it at first, I don't know if I'll get it as quickly. Not because I'm not willing to like spend the money on it anywhere else, but it might be a little bit more difficult to get it. But I mean, we'll see.
Katie is popular.
She's way more popular than me. They've said that they had more stock, like way more stock than the new 1070 and 1080. So
yeah, I've seen the screenshots, or I shouldn't say screenshots, the pictures. Well, screenshots of benchmarks, but I've seen the pictures on the PC Master Race subreddit of just the pallets of 480s.
Well, good. That's good. Just hopefully they sent some of those pallets to Amazon. Because I've already got some balance in my gift card account, and I just like to buy things from Amazon because it's easy. It's super easy. Got an account already. Got a Prime membership. Get it in 2-3 days. Easy. But anyway, so yeah, next game on my list, Anno 2205. I talked about this being one of the games that I really wanted to buy last week. And I didn't buy it immediately. I thought about it for a little while and then decided, I really want to play this game, so I bought it. Rocket League was an impulse buy that you guys were like, we should play Rocket League.
That's more of a peer pressure buy.
Yeah, it was a peer pressure buy, but I bought it and I was peer pressured in the proper direction, which I'll talk about it some more later, but good game. And then Envy the Dead was a complete impulse buy. It was like $2. It's a zombie survival roguelite. And every once in a while, I like to roll the dice on one of those and see if it's any good. I've bought several over the years, so.
And how many of them have been good?
None.
Is that even by your standards or just general standards?
That's
because we know that you're easy.
That's even by my standards. I've not enjoyed any of them, but I'm a glutton for punishment, and for $2, I'll roll the dice.
I know you're a glutton for punishment. I mean, you have a podcast with me.
Yeah, but you have a good voice. So anyways, yeah.
At least you think so. I still don't think so.
So yeah, let's circle back to that Steam controller. I said, 2 weeks ago that I had bought one.
Yeah.
It never shipped. Well, it never got to me. It said it had shipped, but it never got to me. So I contacted them, and this
Somebody
was right.
at UPS is playing with your Steam controller.
Probably. So I contacted them on, when was it? Tuesday? Wednesday of last week was when I contacted them, and they were like, "Yeah, I mean, it shipped. Tracking information says that it's here in this place." And I was like, "Well, that's not where I live. Here's where I live." And they were like, "Okay, we'll see if we can figure something out and get back to you, ASAP." I get an email from them Thursday, so right before the sale started, and they said, "Yeah, the package has been lost. So since the Steam sale is starting, we're just going to refund your money on the whole purchase, and then you can rebuy the controller on the sale. And we're going to give you this code to put in, and it will give you free shipping on the next physical purchase you make." So I repurchased it at the sale price and
How
didn't
much
have
is
to pay
shipping on that?
Normally it's, to me, I don't know if they do calculated shipping or if they just have a flat rate, but it was like $8 and some change. So not too bad.
Yeah, but that's still a hefty price, or a hefty percentage for
Yeah.
the sale price.
Yeah. So, but I got free shipping on it. And according to Steam, they say it's shipped. I haven't actually went to see if the tracking number's available yet. It just says
It's shipped.
online.
It's just you don't know where to.
Yeah, I don't know where to. So yeah, I've now purchased 2 Steam controllers and have nothing to show for it. But they were very helpful.
The other
really
one's going to
quick.
show up, and then you're going to do a giveaway.
I mean, I would actually, if I got the second Steam controller.
Or should I just send you my shipping address?
If it actually shows up, I would give it to you. I would ship it to you.
Aw.
But I doubt it will show up. It's probably long gone. I'd say that the UPS man or his kid is playing with the Steam controller. Or somebody is.
It fell behind the couch.
Yeah. It fell off of the conveyor belt where they load the trucks.
They see something from Valve's like, hey.
So, yeah, I have a good Valve customer support story this week, which those are few and far between.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Valve is actually learning, you need to do customer support at some point.
Maybe. I mean, like I said, it was very prompt, very professional. I mean, I didn't even ask for a refund or anything like that. They just were like, okay, here's this. And, I would have been happy if they'd been like, okay, we'll just reship one. But they refunded my money so I could get it cheaper, and they gave me free shipping. So, according to this, the tracking number is available, and it is currently in Illinois. It was picked up at the FedEx
I'm pretty sure you don't
facility.
live in Illinois.
No, it was picked up at the FedEx shipping facility today, or picked up and sent to the FedEx shipping facility in Illinois today. So,
We'll just see if it heads the right direction this time.
according to this, it should be here by Thursday. So perhaps by the time the podcast releases, I'll be playing with a new Steam controller.
And then promptly giving up on it.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean,
From everything I've heard, it has a hell of a learning curve.
well, I'm willing to learn. But yeah, so that's my whole list of purchases on the Steam sale. And like I said, I'm done buying things for myself. Time to start saving up for the next sale. So with that, let's move on to the games that we played this week.
Okay, and I guess I'm kicking things off.
As always, you go first.
Okay, let me scroll back up so I make sure I have these in the order that I was planning on, just because I have a nice segue to your games.
Right, of course.
Let's start off as usual with the Sunday sampler for last week, Party Hard. In a cut segment, we were talking about Tiny Build games, and I mentioned that I had a review copy for one of their games that I got late, and I just never got to it.
Yeah.
Partly because I try to keep somewhat recent on my releases, because that's usually the best time to do videos is either like the week before they come out if you have access to the game, or the week of. And I got this it wasn't quite a year like I thought. It was more like 8 or 9 months after the game's release. So I just got done Party Hard. But Party Hard is a stealth mass murder game.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, essentially, you are a guy that's uh, actually a bit like me now that I think about it. After my neighbor kept me up most of the day. Yeah, had enough with the racket next door of the party, and decided to best course of action instead of calling the cops, go over and murderize them all.
I mean, really, that's always the best course of action, right?
Yeah, and of course, I was poking around the Steam forums, and someone had to bring up Orlando on it as well. This game is triggering to me because of Orlando. It's a video game.
Also, it was out for some time before that
Yeah.
actually happened. I remember seeing Total Biscuit do a WTF is on that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say that the game, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. I had a little bit of problems with it, gameplay-wise, I should say, not theme-wise. Just because the perspective that you have, it's essentially a 2D game, and just because of the perspective, it's kind of hard to tell who has line of sight on you or not. And line of sight, because of how wonky it could be, they made it very short. But you have to be somewhat close to people, to groups, I should say, at times to be able to kill people, because the traps in the game, there's two. Well, I should go over this. There's two ways really to kill people in the game. You can set up traps, which there's a limited amount on the level, and they're somewhat randomized, which sounds good in theory because it does add a lot of content to the game, but some traps that you get just aren't very effective. An example of this is actually in my video. One trap you may get is that you knock over a motorcycle and start a fight. Usually the biker that owns the motorcycle will kill one guy, and then the cops are called, and he's arrested. So that takes two people out. In the same spot, I've also had essentially a go-kart or a golf cart or whatever. It's a little hard to tell because of just the pixel graphics.
Right.
And you start that up, and it goes off on its own, and it'll kill half a dozen people that's wandering around outside. So it really changes, just how effective those traps are, just depending on what you get. Which makes it a little bit iffy on, trying to do things somewhat quickly. The levels do feel like they drag on just because they have that random element of, you may not get the punch bowl this time, and that's a very effective trap by poisoning it. And since you don't have the punch bowl, you have to wait for people to wander off by themselves and kill them the old-fashioned way with a knife.
A good old-fashioned knife to the back, just like they did in Game of Thrones.
That's the second way. Is just stabbing them, and it feels a bit off on the randomization there, just because of all the traps aren't created equal. So at the end of the day, a lot of times I'm just sitting there waiting for an opportunity to commit murder.
Didn't Party Hard have Twitch integration?
Yes, it does have
Twitch
integration. Yeah, it has Twitch integration, but unfortunately, I was recording offline, so I couldn't really do that. And I'm not a Twitch streamer to begin with, so I don't really have a following to do that.
Right.
So it does have some sort of integration where it'll cause events to happen, which your crowd could work against or for you. So that does change things a lot as well. I would say it's mostly a Twitch game for people to watch other people play.
Right. I'm actually going to Twitch right now to see how many people are streaming Party Hard.
I do think that at least when I checked, there wasn't a huge following, but there was some.
There are two people streaming right now. One of them has 19 viewers. The other one has 0 viewers.
Well, when I checked, there was about a dozen people playing. So, but it was also the first day of the Steam sale. So that may have had an issue with it as well.
Yeah, it also could be time of day. Might not be. And this is a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, a weekday night. So.
Yeah, so that could be part of the problem as well. Okay. What else you got?
So not an amazing game, but not a terrible game either. And it is very cheap right now on the Steam sale. So there you go.
Yeah.
Then my obsession. You have your obsessions. I have mine. I got into Stardew Valley, and I spent 12 hours on it since Thursday, which doesn't sound nearly as much as your time with Factorio on that first weekend.
Yeah.
But also remember, Saturday I pretty much slept all day. Sunday and Friday was my render days. And Stardew Valley does work really well on my notebook, so that doesn't really factor in as much, but I still have to set up the videos and let them render out. So I was busy those 2 days and, couldn't devote my full time to it. So, and Sunday and Monday are recording days. So 12 hours on days that I'm busy or just unavailable. That's a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
I knew this game was going to be dangerous for me because I was obsessed with Harvest Moon in the N64 and PlayStation 1 era. I played 3 Harvest Moons in that time. I played Harvest Moon 64, Friends of Mineral Town, and Back to Nature. And I was just obsessed with them. And this has a hell of a lot more content than I was expecting it to going in. I'm just getting to like 2 or 3 days into the first summer. Yes, I realize I'm playing very slowly because I'm spending the entire day. I've worked my fields and I go fishing instead of just starting the next day.
You would go fishing.
Hey, you have your mining, I have my fishing.
Also,
and fishing is a hell of a lot of money in this game.
Also, I see in this screenshot that there's a train.
Yes, there is.
I'm sold.
I literally just unlocked the train. The last day that I saved, it has the Harvest Moon style of you save at the end of the day when you go to bed.
Right.
And the day that I ended on was the day that the train unlocked, and it's a little bit randomized there. So I think it was like 3rd or 4th of summer is when it unlocked for me, but it could unlock a little bit earlier or a little bit later for you. And it's like I said, it has a lot more content to it just off the bat. You could go down to the mines like on the 3rd or 4th day, and it actually has combat more like Rune Factory than it does Harvest Moon, which I never really got into the Rune Factory series because that was more Nintendo's thing, and on the Game Boy Advance, I think it was.
Not sure. I'm not familiar with Rune Factory.
It's essentially a sci-fi version of Harvest Moon, but with combat in as well, which I never really got into.
I could get behind that.
But you could go down to the mines, and it's the Harvest Moon style of mine, only with some action with it as well, with a little bit of combat.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to get further in the mine, find the ladder down, which could be hidden under a rock somewhere that you mine out, or just in the level in general. So that eats up a bit of time. There's fishing, and also there's random quests as well, which was interesting. On the bulletin board on the grocery store, you could check and see if there's a quest that has a 2-day timer on it, which is usually, go fetch something for a person, and they gets their friendship level up, which you could raise your friendship level with just about everyone in the game, and not just the prospective spouses, which there's both male and female, and you're not limited to female only if you're a male character, or vice versa.
That's good.
So technically all the spouses are bi, if you think about it, because they don't really care.
Yes.
That kind of brought things to stop.
I would have some of that. Yes. Yes, please.
Yeah, and I also I'm already at 2 hearts with one of the possible ladies, the geeky girl who's obsessed with science and space.
Ooh.
I happened to get a quest to bring her a cola for an experiment. No, I'm not joking. It was some sort of gadget that she's working on. I'm expecting it to be a time machine based on the original draft of Back to the Future.
Reminds me of what's her face from Fallout 3, who has you go on all the quests to do.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Mora.
I think
for the guide.
Yeah, for the guidebook.
Yeah, I'm probably butchering her name, but yeah, somewhat like her. Yeah.
That makes me think of her. I mean, I could be completely off base, but that's just what it seems like.
Yeah, and she's probably the one I would have went after anyway, just based on my interactions with the other ones. There's one that's kind of a stuck-up bitch that I assume that she's probably a nice girl once you get past the stuck-up bitch phase, but...
she might not be.
Then let's see, there's the other one that I'd probably have gone after if she wasn't a pain to try to find is a girl that's really into nature, and she's lives in a cabin off by herself. But it's just, well, these games encourage you to stalk these girls, to be perfectly honest, to get their schedules down.
Well, I mean, what game doesn't encourage you to stalk people to figure out what their schedules are?
Yep, triggered. And the other person I've gotten at least a fair amount of friendship with is George. I encountered George. He's a grumpy old man in a wheelchair. It's like, we're kindred spirits.
It's you.
I'm
kindred
gonna make
spirits
it my
on a rooftop.
I'm gonna make it my mission to be your special friend.
Oh,
so I've been bringing him
friend.
coffee. It's like, grumpy old man. I like this.
He's like the equivalent. He's like your video game spirit animal.
George is my spirit animal.
George. Hello, George. You grumpy old man, you. Oh.
But I actually tweeted out, met a cranky old man named George. I think I found my mission. I must become friends with George.
Oh. All right. What else you got going on?
Oh, and well, I should say, and I am actually farming in this game as well. I'm not just fishing and bringing coffee to old men.
Yeah, and bringing coffee to an old man.
I'm in my first summer, and the money I made from fishing has greatly expanded my farming operation.
Winter is coming.
Yeah, and that's when I'll probably be in the mine. Because it does encourage you to alternate or not focus solely on one profession, because there's mining, there's foraging, and there's fishing. And right now I'm kind of leaning heavily on fishing right now, just because it's the easy money.
You can make wine in that game too.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be, as a winemaker. I mean, eventually I want to get Stardew Valley, but it's like I have so many versions of crack right now. It's just like, let that one sit until it's cheaper. I got the rest of my crack to go through.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing also, is that it has a little bit of what I would almost classify as base building, because you're not in previous Harvest Moon games, you make wine, you get a particular item in your house, and you put all the grapes in that, and there you go. And this encourages you to build up a lot of wine barrels outside, and you put your grapes in those, or whatever, because it doesn't have to be grapes. You can make different types of wine, or technically cider or whatever, in the same barrels.
Right.
And it takes game time to do so. So you have to consider your path and how you're going to do things. Like, for example, one section of my farm I'm actually devoting to maple trees. And I'm going to make tappers to make maple syrup.
Okay.
But it takes time for the maple trees to grow up, obviously. There are already some on my property, and it has it where the trees will expand out over time, and the weeds will expand out. So you're constantly getting a source of wood as well, which is kind of nice, actually, because that's something that, looking back, kind of bothered me with Harvest Moon. Was the way that you got wood was, you went and chopped down the same stumps over and over and over again. On this, you just wait for the trees to expand on your property, and you go chop them down. So it's a little bit more, dare I say, realistic.
You can say realistic. I'll allow it.
It's kind of a weird thing. It's one of those things that you don't really think about until another game does something different. It's like, wait, this is a lot better. Because I'm constantly dealing with trees on my own property instead of, going to farm the same tree stump to get like 4 or 5 pieces of wood, for like a year to be able to build a house. And I may also be trying to get that particular girl to see if there's a discount on the houses because she's also the carpenter's daughter.
If I marry you, will you give me a discount on my housing materials?
If you give me a discount on the housing, I'll give you a grandchild. So, what do you think? Do you want a grandchild?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's Stardew Valley. I'm probably going to be playing that for quite a while, and I may bring it up again. I try not to talk about the same games over and over again. Otherwise, I end up sounding like you with Factorio.
But you're allowed, though. See, I've set the precedent for that, so it's okay if you talk about the same games repeatedly.
Yeah, but I try to stay interesting.
Yeah, that's overrated.
So let's move on because I think I devoted enough time to Stardew Valley.
Okay.
My racing game that I picked up at the Steam sale, Dirt 3. This is an interesting one. I like off-road racing more than I do on-road racing, which kind of limits my choice.
Right.
And I don't like pure rally, so Dirt Rally was kind of off the table. I realize that Dirt Rally probably has non-rally racing in it, but also it was a lot more expensive. And I just wanted something cheap to be able to play for a while. And I like the previous Dirt game, but there is one thing that kind of bugs me with these games. It's the extreme personality that they have with them.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome to the Red Bull 420 X Games Special. Woo! Are you ready to upload this video to YouTube?
You going, woo, is got to be the highlight of my night. That's great.
Well, no, they actually, after, I want to say about 25% of the races talk about, upload that video to YouTube, man. And let your fans see just how awesome you are.
That would be frustrating. I've played Dirt 2.
Yeah, I've been skipping a lot of the voicing in it. And that is by far the worst part of it, is just the personality of it. I've realized that they have to have some sort of personality because that's the culture around at least some of the racing.
Yeah.
But if you're not in that scene, it is so cringeworthy.
Yeah, I've played Dirt 2, and it's pretty... I mean, it doesn't have that level, but it does have a pretty high level. It does have a pretty high level.
I played Dirt 2 before. I have Dirt 2. Dirt 2 is worse than, or not as bad as Dirt 3 on that personality thing.
Yeah.
And they also they have an event called the Gymkhana, which is basically the drifting version, or the drift from Dirt 2, which is also there. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing where it's not a race, but it's scored on points.
Yeah.
But it's not just drifting. It has drifting in it. It has doing donuts around various objects, doing spin outs. And so far, it hasn't been terrible, but if they rely too much on it, it's going to get very old. Because honestly, I'm playing a racing game to, go around a track very fast. Or, go over a dirt road at, 200 miles an hour and hit a pothole the wrong way and careen into a tree.
I like the technical aspect of that. I really like drifting and things like that. Like, I play Forza, and half my time I spend trying to build a drift car. And Forza, I mean, it's got a system for drift points because people enjoy it so much. In Forza 3, they added the drift system.
At least the Gymkhana of it has it where you're going through a gate, and the closer you get to the poles, it acts as a multiplier.
Yeah.
Which I just don't want to see them rely too much on it because I prefer the racing. I want to play my rallycross. I want to play my land rush, or just rally in general.
Right.
So I wish that they didn't rely that much on it. And I realize that it's probably Dirt Rally, but I like the variety that the Dirt series had before Dirt Rally, which I'm not 100% sure that Dirt Rally has. And like I said, it was a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So at least so far, it's been fine. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go over and look at Dirt Rally's racing just to see if it is just pure rally or if there's more to it. Because, yeah, it does look like there is some Rallycross content, but I was going for the cheaper version. It's about, I want to say 4 times as much as Dirt 3 was. And Dirt Rally is still a fairly new game, so I can pick it up probably the winter sale a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So this is more just getting me my fix on dirt racing until Dirt Rally gets cheaper. I just wish they didn't have as much of the extreme, and that's extreme without the E, I might add.
Extreme.
The extreme personality. Drink Red Bull today.
Never liked Red Bull.
Red Bull always tasted like cough syrup.
Kind of, yeah.
And boy, did I peek the microphone there. That's going to be interesting to see how that does.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay, so...
And let's get into the segue with Rocket League.
Rocket League!
Rocket League is a game I've played on and off for quite a while. To the point that you actually saw my shiny golden hat.
Yes, your
that
shiny
hat
golden
from
hat.
that hat from alpha testing the game.
I got the pirate hat today. Speaking of hats.
Cool. Yeah, but yours isn't nearly as shiny as mine.
I don't care.
I thought you liked sparkly things.
I do like things that are shiny, but I'm gonna not care so that it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but mine has the word alpha on it.
That has the word alpha on it.
What can I not tease you?
Yeah, but I'm gonna tease back.
I'm gonna tease back.
Fair play. Fair play.
Rocket League, this is probably going to be more you talking than me because this is your new experience with the game. Rocket League is a lot deeper of a game than I think a lot of people give it credit for.
Yeah, Rocket League is interesting. I mean, it's awesome. It's been out for a while, so I'm sure most of you listening are probably familiar with it. Maybe not, but probably. But yeah, this is my first forte. I got peer pressured into buying it. Saturday? Friday?
I'm pretty sure it was Friday.
Yeah, Friday. And I installed it, and I didn't get a chance to play it until last night. And I played the tutorial and 2 games, and I was like, okay, I'm sold on this. Who's online that I can play with? And you and Ghost Shark were online, so I was like, hey, do you guys want to come play Rocket League?
I was setting up to record. It's like, yeah, I'll spend some time playing.
So we played for like an hour last night or so. And I've played off and on today when I've had a little bit of time to play. It's fun. It's car soccer. I mean, it's not just car soccer, but...
Yeah, they've the post-release content for Rocket League has been outstanding. I'm not talking about just the cosmetic stuff, that they do have a bucket load of cosmetic DLC, which it has this weird blurred line between cosmetic and non-cosmetic because the different cars do have slightly different attributes, like the Batmobile is a lot flatter of a hitting surface. So if you're into popping up and hitting the with the flat of your car, it may actually be more worthwhile.
Right.
And various cars handle slightly differently. The biggest difference is like the Merc, the van. Mm-hmm. It turns a lot worse than most of the other cars. And its power side is a lot different. But that's the outside of the rules, the exception rather than the rule. A lot of the cars are very similar with only slight differences of their attributes. And that's where the blurred line of the DLC comes in. Because some people swear up and down that the DLC cars are better. Others say that they're worse. And I'd say that it's probably somewhat in between where they're good at some things but not others. But there's the free cars that are also good.
I get the feeling that the skill, what's it called? The skill floor?
The skill floor and the skill ceiling.
The skill floor is, I mean...
very low.
Very low.
The skill ceiling is...
the skill ceiling is incredibly high.
Have you looked at some of the stuff online for Rocket League?
Yeah, I've seen videos, even before, like videos and GIFs and stuff of people doing like ridiculously crazy things. Because the physics engine in it is pretty spot on, I think, based on my meager experience with it. But
Yeah, they do a lot of good stuff with the lag compensation because that would absolutely kill this game otherwise.
yeah, so, but yeah, I mean, I get I'm not very good. I'm better than I was when I started yesterday. So I've played for like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours in total. I'm better, noticeably better by like hour 3 than I was at hour 1. But I could see like so much growth because most of my play is centered on the ground as opposed to in the air, which there's tons of stuff you can do in the air. There's tons of stuff you can do on the walls. And I've seen people pull off some crazy moves. I've gotten a couple of really lucky, like crazy looking moves, but I mean, they were complete luck. But
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
getting
pretty much ground based as well. I do a little bit of aerial stuff, not much, and I drive on the walls a little bit.
yeah.
Not nearly as much as I should.
I drive on the walls a lot, but I'm not very good at it. So, but you know,
Well, a lot of Rocket League, or at least the initial skill floor, is learning when to go and when not to go for the ball.
yeah. Most people just go for the ball the whole time, and they're
And then you saw me playing, and I was hanging back, and I was taking shots that were set up for me by people, inadvertently knocking the ball into position.
yeah. When playing with randoms, I usually just hang back unless there's someone else who is hanging back at the goal, and if they refuse to move, like after a few seconds, then I go because it doesn't do any good for 2 people to sit at the goal. But
Yeah, and I'm torn on goalie, on people playing goalie because it does help on defense, but it is a severe hindrance on offense if they're not running a goalie as well.
yeah, I think you just have to match. Well, a little bit of matching what the opposing team is doing, and then a little bit of
And it also
reading the
depends on
field.
what we're defining as goalie because there's people that will just sit in the net all day, but there's also people that if the ball's at their goal, they'll be hanging at the midfield line.
Well, I'm thinking along the lines of most soccer goalies because they usually only actually hang in the net if the ball is coming, downfield towards them. Otherwise, they're up kind of in the first third of the field, ready to help if necessary. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of as goalie, and that's usually how I play. Because you can see in the midfield where it changes from blue to orange. Mm-hmm. And if I'm playing goalie, I never go past the line change or the color change. And then if I'm not playing goalie,
Well, if you're talking about the color change on the ball, that's who hit it last.
No, I'm talking about the color change on the field. Most fields,
right.
there's a line in the middle that changes from blue to orange. Not all the fields, but most of them. So, at least most of them that I've seen so far. I don't know how many maps there are, but
there's quite
there's
a few.
definitely plenty.
There's 3 game modes, right? And that's before we even get into the modifiers, which is just nuts.
Yeah. I played the
Have
basketball.
you played on modifiers?
I haven't played on modifiers, no.
Oh, I think you'll either love or hate modifiers, and I can't decide which it will be.
Yeah, today I played mostly regular games because my playlist is pretty much everything except the basketball because I played the basketball and I didn't like it.
The basketball requires a lot more aerial play, which is not my strong suit, and you said it isn't yours as well because you're ground based.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to develop those skills, but I've only played for a few hours. So
Yeah, there is the training mode, which would help quite a bit.
yeah, I started a single player
Season?
season just to get some extra practice in.
Yeah, the AI is a little bit lackluster, but it's not meant to be played with AI, to be perfectly honest. The AI is meant to fill in for someone that drops out.
Yeah. I'm using it as practice because the free play mode is okay for getting a feel for the car, but with nobody else on the field to knock the ball around, it's like you can't practice like, okay, it's been set up. Now how do I knock this into the net? That sort of thing. So that's what I'm using the season for. But it's a fun game. I really like it. I mean, we're going to stream it tomorrow night, and we might stream it Friday too. We'll see. Because Friday I usually leave up a little bit more to Democracy, but Wednesday I was like, no, we're going to stream this Wednesday.
What do you think of the hockey mode since you brought up the hoops mode?
I really like the hockey mode. Hockey mode is fun because there's a lot less aerial stuff in hockey, but there's a lot more wall riding in hockey because it sticks to the ground a lot more.
Yeah, I do wish that the field was a little bit slippier.
That would be interesting if you're sliding around.
Just because it looks like you're on ice, but it's just a retexture on the field.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a lot more interesting, but it's still a very fun mode. And just the fact that the puck could be very unpredictable at times.
Yeah.
Because you just in our we had one mode of hockey. Yeah, it was our last game of the night, I think, or next to last.
Yeah, I think we only played one hockey. And
it was and we had some very interesting bounces.
Yeah.
Where actually it was me most of the time getting up under the ball, under the puck, I should say, not the ball, and just having it tumble.
I pushed it around the wall a lot up on the side. That was fun. I definitely prefer 3v3 to any of the other modes.
Yeah, I typically play 3v3 or 4v4.
4v4 is all right.
It gets a little chaotic,
yeah,
which is the reason why it's called chaos mode.
3v3 is good. 2v2 is okay. And actually, I haven't done a 1v1 yet because I'm not good enough. I'd get creamed in a 1v1. I need team support to help me out. But maybe someday.
And I would say go check out the modifiers at some point because let's see, there's one that turns the ball into a cube.
That's interesting.
Let's see, there's Moonball, which turns on low gravity mode.
That sounds awesome.
Pinball, which makes the ball very heavy, but it also makes it bounce around like crazy.
Also interesting.
So it's more divine intervention than skill, at least for me.
Not sure how I feel about that, but I mean, I'd give it a shot.
Let's see, there's Time Warp, which basically you've seen the replays and how whenever someone's hitting the ball, everything slows down.
Yeah.
It's that during actual play. Every time someone goes to hit the ball, everything slows down for everyone.
Oh, that would be awful.
Just
because it gets so frustrating.
It does drag out the game, but it also allows you to fine-tune a shot.
Yeah.
And I'm missing a mode somewhere. Oh, Beach Ball. Big ball, very light.
That sounds fun.
So it adds to a bit more aerial play, but it's normal mode, pretty much everything else. And I think that's the default modifiers. And you're able to change those, by the way, for playing with friends. It's an amazing LAN party game. At one point we had a 4v4, and the other team was 4 people on a LAN party, and you could see that by it was one person. It was Slap the Fat Guy or something. And it was Slap the Fat Guy 1, 2, and 3, which that means that that's the primary account and the 3 people that are on LAN with them.
Yeah, that's really standard for consoles.
I should say local multiplayer.
Yeah, that's the standard for console stuff.
And because he had an avatar, that was probably somebody playing on a Steam Link with friends there. To be perfectly honest, because usually it's. The computer having that many people around it is very rare.
Yeah. Most of the people that I see are from PSN.
Yeah, it's a very big game on PlayStation Network and Xbox. Just because, PlayStation, they got it for free when it launched.
Yeah.
As part of the PlayStation Plus package. And that got them a lot of players, but it's still very popular on Steam.
Does Xbox have cross-platform or cross-play with Steam?
If it doesn't already, it's going to soon, because remember they talked about it during the Microsoft conference when they refused to name the other platforms that Rocket League is on.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, actually, I'm heading over to Steam Stats to see what the player count is for Rocket League. Rocket League is in the top 10.
I was gonna say it's probably pretty high. There were
it maxes out at just over 55,000 players.
When I played a couple of games earlier, there were 100,000 people online, and
let's put it this way: it's between Grand Theft Auto 5 and Fallout 4 right now.
Nice.
That is absolutely huge for an indie game.
I kind of want to go play some right now. It's just it's really fun. It's wacky and stupid and silly, and it pushes all of my happy buttons.
Yeah, if we don't count Valve games as indie games, it's the second most played indie game on Steam. Can we guess the first?
The first most played indie game?
I'm assuming this is indie, technically.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I would call this technically indie. Ark Survival Evolved.
Oh.
Oh, wait. I missed Gary's Mod is on here as well, and that's technically an indie game.
Yeah. Whatever. Rocket League's better.
Well, a lot of games are putting in a Rocket League-like mode. Warframe put in a Rocket League-like game just recently.
Yeah, I saw that. Honestly, it doesn't look very good. I mean, it might play well, but
it's rough.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but it looks rough right now. It needs some time to cook, and I don't think that they're going to put the time into it. It's more of a side mode than anything, and I don't think they have really any incentive for people to play it. And I'm not saying that they need to put an incentive for it, but if the game isn't as fun as Rocket League, then they need to, kind of push people into it, or make it more polished. And I don't think they're going to.
Yeah.
So the other option is to add rewards, and it is an MMO, so that it makes sense to have some sort of tangible reward for a game there.
Yeah, that does make sense. So are we done with Rocket League before I move on to my only other game that I've played this week?
I think so, unless you have anything more to say about Rocket League.
Nope. It's good. Moving on, the other game I played this week was some more Train Fever. Factorial will probably be back in the rotation next week.
You have a fever that only trains could solve.
Absolutely.
You must have more train.
Many more trains. All the trains.
All we need to do is put a cowbell on the train.
But yeah, so Factorial will probably be back in the list next week. They had the I think it's the 0.13 update.
Yeah.
And it is unstable and crashes.
Yeah, who knew that 0.13 would be unlucky?
So I'm experiencing sound bugs and crashes. So I just was like, I'll turn this off until they patch it and fix it. So went back to playing with my trains, and it gets very difficult. So last time I said, I played it before. I got to like the early 1900s, and then I quit and hadn't played it again. And so I just started over when I went back to playing it again. And I've now made it to the mid 1900s. I'm in like 1940 or so, and the game gets incredibly difficult. Starts getting very difficult in the early 20th century. So something around like 1910 to 1950-ish. And it probably will continue to get more difficult because you have a few things happen. Number one, the the population starts to get cars.
Move along, civilian.
Yeah, so the population starts to get cars.
Simple. You just buy out the car makers.
Except
it worked for the car makers buying out all the public transportation.
I mean, if there was an option, I would do that, but you can't do that. So you have to start competing with cars, and everything is getting more and more expensive because everything starts swapping over to being electrically powered, and then all of the gasoline-powered vehicles are more expensive than obviously more expensive than the horse-drawn versions. So I had invested heavily in actual road transportation as opposed to trams and trolleys and all of that. So as soon as I swapped all of those over to trucks in the early 20th century, I started losing money on lines that were making me lots of money before. And I had saved, and so I went back to the save and I started playing around with different things, and I figured out that you need to use electric trams in cities in order to make transportation routes profitable again, because they have much cheaper running costs than combustion-powered vehicles. So they cost more, but they have cheaper maintenance costs. And then that's how I started making my lines at least breaking even. And I'm like, okay, well, my vehicle lines aren't really earning me any money, but my trains should still be earning me money.
But just buying an airline.
I would buy an airline. That'll be in Transport Fever. And it actually is. The sequel to Train Fever has got planes.
Well, there's a reason why trains aren't that popular in the United States.
Yeah. So
it's a fucking big country.
So trains start around this time also have a fundamental shift in the way that you use them. because they start to get really, really fast in the early 20th century, but also really, really expensive. And the model for the early game is run many small lines with multiple trains on them so that you can keep all the transportation times down, and the trains are really cheap compared to the amount of money that you make. So that's good. And then it gets to the point where it's like, okay, now I have to shift and go the opposite direction. I need to rebuild these really large networks using less but faster trains in order to link everything and make it all work together. And shifting from one to the other is tedious and difficult because
it's an interesting historical thing, though.
That did happen historically too. Like, there used to be many branch lines and multiple engines, and now it's all, there are fewer trains but larger, more powerful ones that are more
sorry
expensive.
To interrupt you, but it was something I wanted to point out before we got a message about it.
Sure. Yeah. But it's very, very difficult to make that change because I've been operating for hours at this point, many hours with many small lines. And I actually lost a game because I poorly made the transition, lost a bunch of money, killed all of my profitable lines by accident, screwed up, and lost because I went bankrupt. So I had to get back to this point a second time, and I already had this in mind. So I had built larger stations and had already worked on creating an interconnected network and was just running them separately. And then as soon as the electric trains started to come out, which are in both, whether you're playing the American, because you can play either in Europe or in America, and they each have two very distinct sets of trains and things like that. But electric trains are the fastest you get in the early 20th century. So once you get trains that can go like 100 plus kilometers an hour, you electrify everything and sell all of your old steam trains and swap everything over to electric trains.
Boy, but that was a shock.
And I did better the second time around. But still, it was very tedious and difficult. And I'm going, okay, next I'm going to have to switch to high-speed trains, which means I have to upgrade all of my rails, and it's going to cost a ton of money. And it's just, like, daunting. And I can't imagine playing this on the harder difficulties. Because I'm playing
It is interesting how they have the difficulty, or I shouldn't say the difficulty increase, but the historic changes there as a difficulty spike.
Yeah, it's awful. In the early game, you make tons of money off of passengers because, there's no transportation system that's any faster than horses outside of that. Horses and walking. And in the late game, it seems that unless you just do a really good job setting up your lines, you'll be making most of your money off of freight deliveries, which historically happens.
It is accurate.
Yeah, so I've got a few passenger lines that are profitable, but for the most part, now that I've had to make the switch, I'm lucky if my passenger lines break even. I have one line that thankfully is making tons of money and is basically supporting me as I go through this change. And it's 6 cities that I have linked through one really large interconnected train network. And for some reason, it is just the bomb, and it makes me lots of money. And I can't figure out why, because it's the same as another network I have on the other side of the map, which does not make money.
This sounds like being on YouTube. There's something that's getting me a lot of views. I don't know why. Don't touch it.
Yeah. I don't know why this line works, but it does, so I'm just going to leave it be. So, yeah, Train Simulator. I'm almost to 1950, which is another milestone in the game, and will give me some achievements. And around the big milestone points are when the big changes in the game happen. So 1900, 1950.
Yeah, so how's this game going to screw you over in 1950?
I don't know. That's when diesel engines started to really become the norm. They existed in the 30s and 40s, but steam and electric were still the mostly steam, but steam and electric were still the primaries until
So when does You Play an Origin come out?
What'd you say?
So when does You Play an Origin come out?
Probably at the 2000 milestone.
Of course, they don't really do too much.
Then the trains will never work. And when they do work, they'll be really slow. But somehow they'll still manage to turn a profit.
Well, see, once you get to the 2000s, Steam only makes the majority of your money during the summer and the winter.
There's some interesting achievements in that game. Like, there's one that's called, I believe it's called Legacy Rail or Legacy Line or something like that. And you have to keep a steam train running from the beginning of the game till the end of the game.
In other words, you set up a historic line and never touch it again.
Yeah, which is basically suicide for that line. It's after probably 25 or 30 years, it's going to start losing money because the maintenance cost to keep old things going just continues to grow exponentially once you get past their set end date, because it's like things will last for so many years.
Much like the U.S. Highway system.
And there's the politics. But, I mean, it's a great game. I enjoy it. I'd like to get all the way through it at least once and then tackle some of those more difficult achievements, but we'll see. I might fail again.
You're still chuckling at my quick jab, aren't you?
Yeah. So, those are the games that we played this week. And we're doing pretty good on time, considering we had two extra things.
Yeah, we're about standard time.
So, let's move on to our first news topic, which is Activision removes the Project Orion from Steam.
Yeah, I am such a wet blanket on this. You were on Twitter. You were getting your pitchfork and torch ready.
I was mad. I was ready to stir up some controversy.
I trust me, I had about the same reaction at first, but I didn't go on Twitter about it. I started digging deeper into it and started reading what other people were saying. It's like, oh. Activision was sorry, I'm having trouble saying this. Activision was right.
I'm not 100% convinced of that, and I'm not just saying that out of my stubbornness to want to be right myself. I don't know. This goes back to that thing of like, when is something...
Yeah, it is a gray line that I'm sure we'll hear more about next week when Kyle writes in.
Yeah.
Because let's just put it this way. If this is not what Kyle talks about, then I don't know what he's going to be talking about.
So
granted, Kyle talks about some random things at times, as we'll see later.
Yeah. So the gist of things is that there's this game, we've mentioned it before, the Orion Prelude, and then they have developed it along with some other projects that they've started into another game that they called
the Orion Project. And they were selling it for $1 usually and knocked it 50% off, and were selling quite a few copies of it.
Yeah, I mean, I bought... Did I buy 5 or 6? I think I bought 6. I bought 1 for me and 5 gift copies. I was going to give them to you guys for some streaming, and then I was going to use them as part of the giveaway that we're doing. But depending on how that turns out, I mean, the game might be dead, depending on how much this costs them.
Yeah, which, depending on how they handle multiplayer, may still make it where we could stream it. But
yeah, well, Orion Prelude uses a peer-to-peer multiplayer system, so that would still work. But I don't know about the Orion Project, what it does. But anyway, so Activision issued a DMCA takedown notice to...
Yeah, this happened just a couple of days ago, actually.
Yeah, it happened, I think, on today's Tuesday. It happened on, I think, Monday? Sunday or Monday?
I think it was Sunday, because it's kind of boiled... Or it was either late Sunday or early Monday.
Yeah.
Because it's had about 24 hours to really start going. And then I started digging more into the news today. And pulled up some interesting things from that company's past as well. But
Activision issued a DMCA takedown notice on them to have the game removed from Steam. They were saying that it's because that they directly copied gun models from Black Ops 3, Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
Yeah, and the company behind Orion Project, which I'm blanking on the name of, which I'm sure you'll go look up while I'm talking.
Yeah, I'll look up while you're talking.
Started screaming bloody murder and playing up the victim card, which if they weren't guilty of it, is perfectly reasonable. But put some screenshots saying, "Well, I could only assume it's going to be this gun versus this gun, and there's some similarities, but you can't really see it." And they also made sure that the guns were at very different angles. And then people started really going into this because the internet is full of people that have nothing better to do. I mean, look at us, right? And there are some very interesting comparisons, which will be in the show notes because this is a lot of visual stuff. And I know that doesn't work great for an audio podcast. And I'm far too lazy to most likely put this on the video feed anyway. But they started comparing, in one case, 5 guns and showing different parts of various guns on this one gun. And it matches up far closer than what it really could be, just happenstance. Because what I originally thought this was going to be was, okay, the designers of the game and of Black Ops either were inspired by the same guns, or Orion Project used Black Ops as kind of a jumping off point. Like, oh, this gun would be kind of cool if we do it like this. Which then you start getting into the gray area of copyright in general. And then they started seeing, or then I started seeing all the screenshots of the guns just being hodgepodges of 5 or 6 guns. And then I started going to the history where this company's, for Orion Prelude, which I didn't know about at the time, actually traced concept art for their concept art and used models out of, and I'm blanking on the game for it. It was another dinosaur game that was popular at the time. They basically copied the model and remodeled the head for a Tyrannosaurus Rex and retextured it. And looking at everything now, I have to say Activision was right, or at least it appears to be.
Okay, so the developer is Spiral Game Studios.
Spiral Game Studios.
Update: Orion Prelude is back on the store because both games got taken down. The Orion Project and Orion Prelude, but Prelude is back. The Orion Project is still, the store page is gone. Well,
I didn't know Orion Prelude was taken down as well.
I checked earlier. I was curious. I was like, well, which of the games, like, did they get both of them? Because all that the articles kept saying were Orion. And I was like, well, there's Orion Project and Orion Prelude. So I went and looked, and both of them were taken down.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was both of them. I was assuming Orion Project. And I was thinking more into the claims more than the actual games.
Yeah, but Prelude is back. So
yeah, and this is a hell of a timing for him, to be perfectly honest, because it is the Steam sale.
Yeah, I mean, even though the game is only $1.
Yeah, well, it was showing up on a lot of discovery queues.
Yeah, I mean, it's 49 cents makes it one of the cheapest games on the Steam sale. 49 cents, I think, is actually the bottom price, and there's a dozen games that are at that price, give or take. So,
well, now there's 11.
But yeah, so Prelude is back. So yeah, I've looked at all of those images, and I was unaware of their past things.
Yeah. Some of the things that they've done. Let's see. Well, they've copied the concept art, like I was talking about, and also they talked about. There was an article. I think I have it in the stuff for the show notes. I may have to go dig it up if I don't. About how after their Kickstarter for the Orion Prelude, or what would turn into Orion Prelude, because they changed the name of that game several times to dump to basically clear out the reviews and get relisted on Metacritic. They dropped off essentially their entire staff and rehired cheaper staff after their Kickstarter was funded. Yeah. So there's some really scummy material there, and also their CEO has kind of gone bananas and actually got himself banned off his own Steam hub because
I didn't see that.
Yeah, because of some of the accusations that he was throwing at Valve doing it instead of Activision, and you do not assault the Gaben, our Lord and Savior.
Okay, so, well, you explained everything while I was looking those things up. I don't think that they're close enough. I can clearly see the inspiration, the starting point, whatever. But I mean, this really comes down to the argument of at what point is it actually copying, or at which point is it different enough to be
which I'm sure is
even a ripoff.
Yeah, which is where I'm sure the legal line has to be drawn. And you were talking about how they should have contacted Spiral Games first and gave them time. But then I remembered that the DMCA requires you to take action. Or I shouldn't say the DMCA. Copyright actually requires you to defend your copyright or you lose it. It's a
I thought that
defend
was
it or lose
trademark
it.
law. Or was it both?
I think it might be both.
I know. I'm pretty sure Kyle wrote in
Because
and told us about this once.
Because that's why, yeah, Kyle will definitely clear that one up.
We're going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Kyle's just sitting there shaking right now.
Like, why don't you people ever listen to me?
Yeah, he's just waiting for us to stop being wrong, which will be when Kevin McLeod's music starts going over your voice.
No, we won't stop being wrong until we're dead.
Well, I mean for this episode.
Oh, okay. But, yeah, the legal line is, I'm sure there's some precedent somewhere that I'm not familiar with that makes Activision think that they have ground to stand on. And if it goes to court, then there will be, a law battle to determine if they went too far or if they didn't. I mean, my personal opinion doesn't matter at all in those terms.
Yeah, it all comes down to the judge and legal precedent. And that's how these things go, is where's the line drawn in the sand?
Yeah. Like I said, they seem different enough to me that at worst, I would call them a cheap ripoff, and at best, I would call them uninspired
but I think the
design.
more damning one is the hodgepodge one, where they show parts from 5 or 6 different guns from Black Ops 3.
Right, but even in that, there were parts that look different. All of the individual parts look different than the guns they were taken from on Black Ops. And
but
some
are you
of them not so much.
But here's the thing: is there's the difference between actual modeling, which is what they are claiming, and texture work, which could add some different dimension to a gun. So it may be the difference there as well.
Right, that's true.
Because if you shadow something different, it does look a little bit different on the model.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that Activision doesn't have the right to do this. I think they're overstepping the bounds of their copyright and abusing the DMCA system to take down this game. But I can see an argument made from the other side. I don't feel like this one is as clear cut as we've seen before. And my opinion could be biased because I actually really enjoy the game. So, I'm willing to admit that
yeah, if you go to the
I
Steam
have a bias.
if you go to the Steam Hub for either of the Orion games, it is just full of fuck Activision.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not willing to go that far either.
Yeah, it's...
I was
it
yesterday.
is a definite gray line, but a gray, blurry line, but I do think Activision was probably on the right on this. So, hey, the agree-a-thon has been broken. Just on the fact that they have to defend their copyright and trademarks, and the DMCA is really the tool to use for it. As much as I hate saying that, as a content creator, they have to defend it, and that's what the DMCA is used for. And I'm not quick to say I'm not quick to defend use of the DMCA. Obviously, I've gone over that in the past quite a bit, both on here and my Twitter.
Yeah,
but I think this is probably the clearest case I've seen for it that hasn't been a blatant, full model pulled out and put into another game.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like they're overreaching, but I could see a case made because I don't feel like this is like gross abuse. I feel like they are taking advantage of the fact that the system allows them to do this, but I don't feel like they're doing it completely without reason.
Well, the system was designed to do just this. It is a defense of their copyright if all their claims are true.
Right.
If not, then they'll get the pantsuit off of them for loss of revenue because this happened during the sale.
Yeah. I wonder how much revenue they actually lost. I wonder how many sales of this game have...
Well, if you believe the CEO just flipping out on the... if you look at the last link in the show notes, or at least to you, I'm not sure if it's going to be how I organize things on the final show notes. They were claiming 90% lost sales.
Even if that's the case, though, how much money is that actually? Because the game sells for basically 50 cents.
That's the thing is that they could claim 99% lost sales and they don't have really no numbers to back it up.
The Project Orion did have... There were two purchasing options. You could buy the standard game, which was 50 cents, or you could buy a pack version, which was like the standard game and then like a booster pack with a whole bunch of gear and money to get you started in the open world-ish portion of the game. And I think that was $50 regular and 50% off on the sale.
That's still on sale because they were hyping that up on the Steam Hub.
Yeah.
Because I did wade into that to see what people were saying, and I got pretty much floored with fuck Activision.
Yeah. The Orion is a very niche game. It always has been. It probably always will be. Yeah,
which causes it to get a very rabid fan base, and they're seeing this as an attack, particularly an attack of a AAA company onto an indie dev.
Yeah.
And no matter how right or wrong Activision would be, they are seeing it as just that. A AAA company picking on a little guy.
Yeah.
And there are several people that said they don't care about the evidence that Activision is wrong.
Well, I had that reaction yesterday before there was any of this evidence that had been presented by anybody.
Yeah, and I just had to be the wet blanket for you.
Well, I mean, that's fine. That's, sometimes I'm that for you. Sometimes you're that for me. Thankfully, we are intelligent people who are both willing to...
Wait, we are?
Yeah, I think so. We're intelligent, level-headed people who are both willing to admit that we might be wrong. And I might be wrong on this. And like I said, it's probably mostly my bias because I actually really enjoy the game. And I'm willing to admit that.
Maybe I'm leaning the other way just because I could take or leave the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to fight for it to the death. And I'm just seeing there's just so many damning things in what will be the show notes. I mean, just that one GIF of them lining up the body of the gun. Did you see that one? It's the...
yeah, I've seen that one.
I mean, that is spot on with the sight being a part from a different gun.
There's some difference on the stock as well.
Which is apart from another different gun.
And the trigger's different.
Which the trigger is a very small part.
True. But, things like that could, could be argued like, we use this as inspiration and we change these things.
Yeah, which once again comes down to where the line in the sand is drawn.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I'm looking forward to seeing what Kyle says. And this is the what we were talking about when I mentioned maybe we should just forward our topics to Kyle to have the preemptive discussion on this.
Yeah. But that's really all I have to say about it.
Yeah, pretty much. It is going to be interesting to see how this falls because this company does have a lot of history behind it doing some rather scummy things.
Yeah. Well, I also, even if... I don't know if they'd take it to court or not Activision, but...
yeah, it's really going to be down to just how far... Spiral is going to take things because Activision will take them to court.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Either that or maybe demand some sort of monetary settlement and still force them to change the guns, which that will pretty much be a death kill, a death kneel for him.
A settlement, probably. Changing the gun models, not really.
Depending on how many guns they're saying, because I've only seen a few that they've claimed. And I'm not sure how many guns are in that game total, and that's still a fair amount of model work.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, based on my experience with Prelude, there's only like 10 or 11 guns in the game.
Well, it also depends on just how many guns and how much they have to change them.
Yeah.
Because if they have to rebuild from, just practically nothing, then that is a fair amount of work to make gun models. Right. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's still got a lot of busy work for a game that isn't making a ton of money. It's more making money on volume than it actually is on quality of sales.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of negative press for them. And, they're not able to capitalize on the negative press at all either. Because there's people that are...
Excuse me.
That would buy this game right now as a fuck Activision. But they literally can't.
Yeah, and there's nowhere else to buy it, too. They're exclusively on Steam.
Yeah, which they were talking about. They made their pretty much made their bed with Steam on this one, and Steam has to respect DMC request as part of a Safe Harbor Act.
Yeah.
Yes, Kyle, I know the word Safe Harbor. It's the reason why YouTube is so active on DMCs, is that otherwise they're held responsible for content that other people put up. It's the same thing for Steam. They have to act on these DMCA takedowns.
Right.
And we'll give Kyle a couple moments to recover from fainting.
Oh, well, let's do that by moving on to discuss Xbox Fitness shutting down.
Yeah, this, I don't have the history for it. It's more going to be a transition to a couple other topics for me, but you have the history for this, so you go ahead.
Yeah, Xbox Fitness was introduced with the release of the Xbox One, and it was a way to utilize the Kinect to help people get better, more accurate workouts. Kind of like Wii Fit with the Wii Balance Board, except the Kinect sensor is tracking you and making sure you're doing the proper motions and stuff like that.
The all-seeing eye of Sauron gazing into your soul as you burn it away.
Yeah. And it was one of the applications that the Kinect actually worked really well for. You just had to make sure you cleared out enough of a space and stood far enough away from it that it could see your whole body, but it actually did really well.
Depending on how fat you are, that could be pretty far away.
Well, I'm pretty fat, so I had to stand pretty far away. But it was...
well, remember, there is a limit based on the horizon.
Anyways, it had... there were 2 levels to it. There was the silver version, which is if you didn't have the Xbox Live Gold. And there were a few free workouts that you could do, but not very many. They were the really short, low-quality workouts. Then there was the gold stuff that you got.
So how many of them required you to chant an ad during the middle of it?
None of them. Actually, they didn't have ads in the middle of those. I realize you're making a joke, but actually they didn't have any ads in that service, except if you wanted to buy workout videos. But it wasn't like in the middle of the workouts. It was just plastered in the Xbox Fitness app itself. Then there was the gold stuff, which gave you access to like half of the workouts that they had. So all the silver ones, plus a whole bunch of other full-length, like 30-minute to hour workout videos. And then there was stuff that you could buy on top of it. And I used it for a while, actually, as part of my home workout routine before my kid was born. So we just spread stuff out in the living room and work out in there. And it did really well. It was really good for cardio. It wasn't very good for weightlifting, but it's great for cardio routines and stuff like that.
Well, now your workout is just dodging on the toys that the kid leaves around on the floor, right?
Yeah, dodging kids' toys. I actually go to the gym. But I probably used Xbox Fitness for 6-8 months. And it was good. It was good. It worked well. They had a really great support. They had lots of active groups that you could go to get support, weight loss support and fitness and health tips and stuff like that. It was a neat little service overall. And then over the last year or so, they've been trimming it down. Support
Well, it's
wasn't as
been
good.
losing the fat. They've been cutting the fat.
That is an excellent joke, actually. They've been trimming the fat. And now the service is going away entirely. You have access to anything that you've purchased for a whole nother year, and then the gold stuff goes away at sometime in December. I don't remember exactly. It's said in the article, but I'm not looking at it right now. And then none of the free stuff exists anymore, so only the gold member stuff, and then the anything you've purchased. And then after a year, it completely shuts down. So the people who purchase workouts and things like that, those are going to be gone.
Yeah, which kind of leads me to my thing about games as a service and why that's kind of a bad thing for us just because of things like this. Granted, this isn't technically a game, but it's the same basic idea, is that you don't own the games you think you own, really.
Right.
They can be taken away at really any time. And yes, I realize things like MMOs kind of have to be that just by their pure nature, because they're not going to release the server software, partly because a lot of that has secondary licensing in it that they can't allow to get out. But you don't own your games. It's kind of a sobering thought when you think about it, and just how many games that you think you own whenever you see a service like this just gone, when you have purchases on it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's all digital, all of that, and not all companies are cool like Steam or GOG, and it's like, hey, if this is ever going to be canceled, download it, and then you can keep a hard copy of it, is yours for forever. As far as I know, there's no way to get any of these workouts, and honestly, even if you did, they're all tied to the function of the Kinect, being able to read, like, for example, your body temperature and things like that, as well as your motion to make sure that you're not working out too hard.
Yeah, and automatically calling 911 whenever you fall over and start having a heart attack.
Whenever the fat guy kills over. So even
we have a code fatty.
But even if you got them, they basically would just be workout videos at that point. Which, fair enough, if you want to keep watching your workout videos, that's fine. But the whole point of the system is to utilize the Kinect's abilities and features to help you work out better.
Yeah, which brings me to the other thing, is that Microsoft has been abandoning the Kinect completely.
Yeah. Let's see.
For when they were originally announcing the Xbox One and saying that the Kinect was a required thing, kind of looks like they were lying now, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, they stuck with that for a little while, and then Phil Spencer took over and immediately started releasing versions that of the Xbox that didn't come with the Kinect.
Yeah, and now the Xbox S, it's Kinectless, and it doesn't even have the port for it. You have to get an adapter for it.
Yep. It
Which
uses
we
up one
didn't
of your
cover that
USB
when.
ports.
We didn't cover that when we were talking about that during our E3 extravaganza, just because it wasn't really announced until after the fact, or they didn't go into that afterwards.
Yeah.
Until afterwards.
Yeah, it didn't come out until after the conference, and we really just focused on the conference stuff.
Yeah, because there was just so much non-conference stuff as well that... did you really want a 6-hour podcast?
Me? No. Them? Like 2 people, probably. But, so, yeah. Xbox has been... last year at E3 was, I think, the first E3 where they did not mention the Kinect at all.
Yeah, they didn't even say the word Kinect this time around. I don't recall, at least.
I don't think anybody said Kinect, because last year, even though Xbox
there was more
didn't bring
mentions
up the Kinect,
there was more mentions of the NX than there was the Kinect.
Yeah, actually,
and that had one mention.
Yeah, last year there were a few mentions from games like with Kinect support, like Just Dance or whatever. Excuse me, but there wasn't even any mentions of that.
Still have Kinect support. I mean, it has to.
I assume so, but a lot of the Just Dance stuff is going to like the app on your phone that does kind of the same thing that motion controllers do, like Wiimotes and stuff. So, I mean, maybe not. It probably is in there, but I don't think it's probably as big as it was.
And I'm just looking at the comments on their announcement here, and boy, people are furious.
Which announcement? The
fitness sunset announcement.
Oh, I'm sure they are. And to some extent, I don't blame them, but to the other extent,
especially
it's like,
people
well,
especially people that bought stuff, because we were talking about how even though a game is pulled from Steam, you still have access to it. When Mafia 2 was gone, I still had it in my library, and I could download it at any point, the last version of it.
yeah.
There's very few games. I know there's been a couple, but I'd have to really go digging to find out which ones were pulled both from Steam and people's libraries. And I'm willing to bet that it's only one or two out of, 10,000?
Yeah. I mean, it sucks. It sucks that the service is going away because it was a pretty good service. It sucks for the people who are losing things that they paid for because of the nature of digital content in the 21st century. I mean, all of that sucks, but
it's also a sign of the times for the Kinect that the Kinect tried to basically capture the Wii audience, and Microsoft just couldn't do it. They couldn't get their hardware into where the Wii really flourished, because let's face it, that's what they were trying to do with the Kinect.
Yep. I'm one of the few that loves the Kinect. I love it. I'm gonna be so sad because, I mean, it wasn't even mentioned at all with the Scorpio, and it probably won't be mentioned ever again with future versions of the Xbox. But for a brief time period in my life, I could talk to my Xbox and make it do things.
And sometimes it'll even do the things that you ask it of.
It sometimes gets things wrong. The original Kinect was worse than the newer one, but I mean, it's good. It's good. Eventually, though, voice technology will hit the point where that it's actually capable of doing things like that. Yeah, and you'll be able
to just go, "Hello, computer."
It does already exist to some extent in phones. Siri's pretty good. The phone version of Cortana is not awful. What's the Google Now, I think, is the Google voice recognition service?
I haven't messed with that on my phone.
I think it's Google Now. It's pretty good, too. They're probably 90% accurate, and for that, I'd say you need closer to like a 99% accuracy rating, which is ridiculously high, but, I mean,
yeah.
You know.
Well, also, voice recognition is very difficult to do just because of different accents.
Yeah, that's true.
We live, I'd say 500 miles apart, and my accent is fairly different from yours.
Definitely. And I mean, I don't even have the accent of most people in Tennessee. I do have some southern drawl and a few words, but for the most part, I have a very non-regional accent. Like, what's it called? There's a name for that. Whenever you have an accent that doesn't match any particular region of where you live very well.
The Atlantic accent that was actually used in old-time radio that they actually trained people to use. That's why you hear old radio shows.
I love that accent.
A lot of people have essentially the same accent because they train themselves to not have a distinctive accent from a geographic area.
Yeah.
So that's why radio shows from like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, the big radio station hubs had essentially the same accent. That's why. Can you tell that I like listening to old radio shows?
I love that old-timey radio voice. That old-timey radio accent, and I knew that. I've read about that.
I think it was called the Atlantic accent, but I may be mistaken on that. I'd have to go looking for it. But that's still the same thing, is that you can't train a particular accent because there's just so many different accents. And then there's people that just mumble or will shout, which may just peek out the microphone and you just hear garbage. So it's very difficult to do voice recognition to the point that it's a complete replacement for just good old typing.
Yeah. Well, I think this is an excellent segue, actually. Speaking of the Kinect and voice commands and things like that, it would be a good time to move to our community corner and hear our letter from Chemist, where he spends a very, very long time discussing gimmicks with us. So, Unless
So
you have
we're gonna
anything further to
We're
add.
going to leave Kyle for last, I guess, then.
Well, yeah, I mean, how could I miss that segue opportunity right there, which I have now pointed out and ruined as I do. But yeah, how could I miss that? So
Okay.
let's have Kyle and go like take a nap or something.
As Chemist slowly takes over the podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Greetings everybody, Kmis here again. I'd like to talk about gimmicks, or more precisely, different technologies which over time were considered gimmicks and became either ubiquitous or obsolete. The word gimmick tends to be thrown around every time we get some new toy and is used pejoratively to dismiss it as an attention grab that will fade into obscurity after a couple months of excitement. It may seem random how a new tech will evolve, but after thinking about it for some time, I came up with some simple metric that proves itself to be a pretty good predictor. Grab a snack, it's going to be a long one. Let me start with an example of technology that did create high expectations that weren't delivered upon, therefore definitely deserving the label of gimmicky. I am talking about stereoscopic 3D, ranging from 3D screenings at cinemas, many actively avoid, TVs and monitors that didn't sell, and of course Nintendo 3DS with the slider permanently at the off position. The basic problem with 3D is that it doesn't in long run improve the experience in any significant way. It may look slightly better, but there isn't much you can do with it in terms of game mechanics that can't be done without it. The only benefit of seeing the depth can easily be replaced by perspective and overall graphical design. This obviously applies to stereoscopic 3D only, which is actually two separate 2D images, one for each eye, creating an illusion of third dimension. We are still quite far away from actual holograms, but I promise I'll update this later as soon as I get a handle one. There are a couple base technologies of creating stereoscopic 3D. Polarization filters, which require expensive displays combining separate images at different polarization angles, are most commonly used in cinemas because only the hundreds of people seeing each screen make them cost effective. Eclipse or shutter-based systems may be better for home usage because they shift cost to the glasses, which alternatively obstruct the view of either eye in sync with a standard high refresh rate display. But because you're seeing with only one eye at a time, it produces a dark image and the effect is tiring for the eyes. And finally, we have autostereoscopy, where the images are split already on the display by a row of vertical lenses, as seen on the 3DS and old 3D postcards, technique which arguably produces best results, but having the filter fixed relatively to the screen and not the viewer means you can only achieve the effect in a specific range of viewing angles. Moving on. Motion controllers are basically 6 axes of freedom sensors. They detect 3 axes of rotations and 3 axes of position, by extension also calculating lateral and angular velocity and acceleration. Rotation is easy, as you can use an accelerometer to sense rotation in x and z axis due to constant gravity field, a compass to get the vertical y-axis, while a gyroscope can detect the rotation in any arbitrary axis. Position is much trickier. There is no way to measure position or velocity in an isolated system because Einstein. The best you can do is measure acceleration and integrate it twice, but this method is imprecise as the errors accumulate over time. What is commonly used instead is an external reference point, usually a camera in a visible or infrared spectrum of light. If you can reliably measure position of more than one point, you can even calculate the rotation as a bonus. If right now you're thinking, if I can get all the information I need from a camera, can I skip the onboard sensors altogether? That's exactly what the body sensing Kinect does. So once you have a one-to-one correspondence between your movement and the movement of your character, you can achieve an input precision no button or analog stick can give you. In fact, since there's so much you can do with it, why have motion controls failed? They didn't. Kinect wasn't so great because it turns out that just like touch controls, which at one point were also considered a gimmick, but this letter is long enough as it is without me discussing those, motion controls work best when supplemented by physical controls after all. Instead, it found wide use in computer vision, even for scientific purposes, just not video games. PlayStation Move was supposed to be a better Wiimote, but the only greater thing that it offered was price tag. As to Wii itself, can we really call third best-selling home console with over 100 million units sold a failure? It may have failed to capture the attention of so-called core gamers, but it has done so much good to bring gaming to people who would otherwise never be interested by it. The very fact that my parents, who never played a video game in their lives before, can kick my ass at Wii Sports is pretty amazing. As to more mainstream games, I may get some slack for it, but Skyward Sword is still my favorite Zelda game because I like the sword fighting mechanics so much. Last but by no means least is the gimmick to rule all gimmicks: virtual reality. At the first glance, it may seem like nothing more than glorified stereoscopic 3D. After all headsets contain separate displays with a lens array to fill each eye's field of view. However, the significant difference is that unlike static 3D display, VR headsets keep track of your head movement and adjust the images accordingly. This allows you to look around the scene or peek around the corner, something you couldn't otherwise do. This effect works so well that when it doesn't, people get physically sick. That's why currently, most immersive games are driving or flying simulators where you, sitting in your chair, translates naturally into your character sitting in a cockpit. Most recently, thanks to HTC's Vive, you can also experience so-called room-scale VR, designating a part of your room where you can actually walk and have your character walk as well. Interestingly, there is a body of research showing that this relation doesn't have to be one-to-one. If your character moves 3 meters forward while you stand in place, it will probably cause nausea. But if they move 3 meters while you only move 2, you may not even notice. It works even better with rotations. Try it at home, just be careful not to hurt yourself. Stand up, face the wall, close your eyes and spin around a couple times. Then try to face the same wall, all while keeping your eyes closed. By carefully exploiting those effects, you can extend the virtual space while keeping the physical room small, possibly traveling forward endlessly by walking in circles without you knowing it. All the while using motion controllers, also provided with Vive, which seem to translate the room-scale VR very well, perhaps because you can see your own hands, making it easier to interact with virtual environment. So there's no surprise that most people, especially those who actually got to play with the technology, agree that VR is no gimmick at all and will soon become widely spread, possibly becoming standard way to play. Especially since even if a game is better played on an old school monitor, you can simply simulate it on top of a virtual desk, regardless of where you are at the moment. As to what kind of gimmicks I expect to see in near future, a logical progression of all motion controls would be to allow more freedom of movement, something room-scale VR and omnidirectional treadmills attempt right now. We even have technology that allows for direct measurement and basic interpretation of neural activity in real time. I am, however, much more interested in the feedback side of things, preferably a way to provide resistance to players' actual movements as a response to on-screen environment. There are promising variable property materials such as fabrics changing their elasticity when an electric current is applied that would allow just this kind of thing. Finally, I'd like to invite everyone interested into joining our podcast family and sending me a friend invite on Steam if you feel like it. You can find me under the username Chmis, that's CHMIS, and I'm looking forward to chatting and or playing with you all. Chmis, signing off.
Okay. Alright, and that was Chmis giving us a very intriguing lesson about gimmicks. Rage, I know you had some thoughts about all this.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think he is trying to take over. As he commented on his email to us, all the closer to my 3-hour audio letter podcast takeover.
Hey, man.
How long is this one? I didn't look at the file itself.
It's like 10 minutes.
He wasn't joking about it being a long audio letter.
It's long.
Yeah, and there's a few ways that we could tackle this and pretty much just agree, but I will talk about my history of VR just because I'm old enough to remember the Virtual Boy in stores. And yes, I realized that the technology for the Virtual Boy, there was no way it was going to take off like the Oculus. Well, assuming that they could stop shooting themselves in the foot, or the Vive will be able to have the opportunity to take off. Go ahead. I know you want to say something about the Oculus shooting themselves in the foot.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, they don't have any feet left. So they're starting to shoot other body parts. Eventually they're going to hit something vital.
No, at this point, I think they're trying to shoot the Vive in the foot, but they keep missing, ricocheting, and shooting themselves in the knee.
They're really bad at this.
I think part of the reason why I consider VR so much of a gimmick, just because I have that history with it, that I could remember the Virtual Boy and how it flopped and how several other things were trying to do virtual reality-esque ideas. There was, I think it was Tiger Electronics had the old LCD games. They had one that you'd strap to your head and had this little visor that came down over one eye.
Wow.
To try to do some sort of VR thing there. You'd have to go look at it. It looks ridiculous.
That sounds awful.
Oh, it was awful. But the technology wasn't there. So they had to try to get around it with other methods. And that was one of them, was almost an augmented reality sort of thing. And maybe I am a little pessimistic on VR just because of that history.
No, not you.
What, are you being sarcastic with me? You sarcastic?
No, I don't have a sarcastic bone in my body. What are you talking about?
But I do agree with you that gimmicks do progress to become the basic thing, or the accepted thing, because 3D games exist. When they first came out, 3D was more of a gimmick than anything. Mario running around a open world, gimmick, to put it perfectly frank. Gimmicks do progress, and it's them being a niche and growing from there is where the technology evolves. So I completely agree with you there.
If you think about it, video games were originally a gimmick.
Yeah, they completely were.
I mean, the really old school video games, like even before Pong.
Yeah, the Tennis for Two, I think, is agreed to be one of the first, if not the first, video game, and it was on an oscilloscope.
Yeah, and that was just a gimmick to,
Yeah, just a programming toy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, going all the way back to the very beginning of gaming with Tennis for Two.
And I mean, look at where we are today. Gaming is the single largest entertainment industry in the world.
Bar none.
Yeah, I mean, without question, it passed the movie industry. Was it last year before last? And
it's been several years.
It's been 2 or 3 years. Yeah, it passed the movie industry, and it's not.
Yeah, and that's even
back.
accounting for some of the bigger blockbusters that's happened in the more recent years.
Yeah, it just keeps on trucking. So, I mean, the gimmicks that prove themselves to be really, really useful, really accepted, and continuously accepted. Because a lot of gimmicks, like, for example, motion controls in the original Wii, that was a gimmick that, I mean, it has progressed some since then, and there's been some other places where it's been accepted. But by and large, the Wii was a gimmick, for the original Wii Sports, and the second one that came out,
motion controls,
Wii Island or whatever,
like Chemist was talking about.
Yeah,
but
I think it's funny.
Motion controls for VR would be a lot more important.
Yeah, much more important for that. I mean, VR wouldn't.
And he was talking about an omnidirectional treadmill, and it just takes me back to the novel Ready Player One, where instead of a treadmill, they are actually essentially hanging in a haptic feedback suit with a VR goggles on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's VR taken to the extreme, but if you're trying to get that complete body experience and try to get around the feeling that, because that's, the feeling that the motion is still not real, trying to make it where you're feeling weightless is probably the closest way that you get around it without doing some weird things with movement, because that's really the big hang up right now with virtual reality is you're seeing motion on the screen and it's getting to the point where it feels real to you just because it's feeling your entire vision, and you're able to look around and your brain's thinking, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
Yeah, my body, like, I know I'm not moving anywhere, but everything's telling me I should be moving.
The inner ear's not feeling any motion at all. So there's this weird feedback loop that causes you to get nauseous for some games, and that's why you see a lot of games that are using instant teleportation, or just you're standing in a very small space, assuming that you're not using room scale VR where you're moving around a small area.
Yeah. I think that VR at this point, and we've kind of had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I don't think that VR is a gimmick anymore. I don't think that VR in the next 10 years is going to completely take over gaming. I think that if that happens, it'll be several decades away.
There's a very blurry line between gimmick and niche audience to me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bumping that line, and it really depends on how much Oculus kills itself in VR, really. Because I think that's going to be the damning force for VR right now, is that Oculus is doing some really dickish things.
They are, but I think VR is here to stay. I think that it's now locked into the niche market audience.
Yeah, if it doesn't take off this time, it will next time. Because the technology would progress again. If Oculus completely kills off VR or makes it so niche that people just skip over it because Oculus is locked down all the developers that are doing VR stuff and people don't want to deal with Facebook bullshit. Can you imagine if they start inserting ads Facebook-like into VR?
That's why when I eventually do get a VR headset one day, it won't be an Oculus.
I'm just thinking of that Futurama episode where they went into the internet and there was ads everywhere.
Well, I mean, that is the essence of the internet. Ads and porn. Everything else is kind of squeezed in between. They also
had that for on the internet episode.
There was an episode of the Chappelle Show where he did that too. He goes inside the internet. It's like there's porn everywhere. But I think that we're probably 2 decades away from VR being a really sizable chunk of the market, and we're probably 3 to 4 decades away from it being the standard. I mean, technology grows rapidly and things can change, and I realize that that's a pretty far
Moore's
out there.
law. Even though that's more to processors than just raw computing power, but
I think that it's the thing of it. The audience already exists for non-VR content, so over the next couple of decades, as technology becomes cheaper, more powerful, etc., it'll start working its way into becoming more mainstream, and then you'll have the two coexisting for a while, and then VR has a chance to start overtaking the market and making non-VR more of a niche thing. Although I think that ultimately augmented reality is where this is all going. The
HoloLens.
Yeah. I mean, eventually the holodeck is going to be a real thing. And that might be...
If the holodeck existed, I don't think either of us would ever leave.
I would never leave the holodeck. As long as I could get food brought into me.
Oh, if it was the true holodeck, then it would have replicators built into it.
That's fair. It's a fair point. But that's probably centuries away. We don't even have... Well, there are holograms that exist, but we don't have the level of...
That type of hologram.
Yeah, not that type of hologram. So, yeah. One day, maybe if reincarnation is real, I'll get to experience it. But otherwise, it's not
just
gonna happen for
have
me.
your head frozen.
I do want to be a cyborg. That's like that's a genuine life goal of mine, is to become a cyborg. Katie thinks I'm weird, but
transhumanism is also a thing that exists right now.
Yeah, that's true. I'm all about molding technology into myself. I'm just too poor to do it right now.
Yeah, which is getting off topic, but it's the same problem with VR, is that it will get cheaper as it goes on and the technology evolves.
Yep. And speaking of moving on, let's move on to Kyle's audio letter.
Yeah, which has completely nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Nope, it's very short.
Or ever talked about, really.
And off in left field. So here we go.
Greetings, J. Arthur and Caffeine Rage. This is Kyle coming at you from, I'm on the road this week. So I'm going to come at you with a audio letter designed to stick it to Rage. You jokingly requested a brief history of the commercial aviation industry in America. So why not? I've got about 60 seconds, so let's do this. The entire history of the commercial aviation industry in America, starting now. Okay, so in 1902, Orville and Wilbur Wright invented the airplane, basically a heavier-than-air powered flying craft. World War I came around and developed the airplane a little bit further. Now, when World War I ended, we had a surplus of knowledge about aviation, so we designed mail planes to carry mail from town to town. Fast forward through the 20s, we eventually created planes that could carry passengers doing much the same thing. We're talking the Ford Tri-Motor and other sort of tail-dragger airplanes. Fast forward to the end of the Second World War, we had developed something called the turboprop engine, which would allow planes to fly higher, and we had come up with a way to pressurize the cabin so that you could actually fly at a higher altitude and catch more of the trade winds and be more efficient. So, in the late 50s and early 60s, the three companies, mostly Boeing, came up with a jet airliner proposal that fast-forwarded the entire world into a jet-propelled arms race of sorts in a commercial sense that would allow airline companies to take people from one point on the globe to the other, and that's basically where we left off today, and it's mostly Boeing versus Airbus. So, that is the history of the commercial aviation sector in about 60 seconds. So, there wasn't a whole lot of point to this letter, but I figured why not? I ought to send in something, even if I can't send in something of any substance. So, I will send in something a little bit better next week. Hope you all are having a good night. All right, talk to you later.
And thank you, Kyle, for informing us all about the aviation industry, I guess.
And what would eventually become your fetish.
Yeah, you didn't mention when Aeromorphs started being produced.
Yeah, when did Dragon start fucking airplanes?
What day is it? Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, I'm tempted, and I suppose you'll see in the final version whenever you guys are listening to this, to play that at, like, double speed, just to make him talk really, really fast. Because I think it would be funny. But if it doesn't work, then I probably won't do it. But yeah, there's.
Do you ever get the feeling that Kyle feels required to send in something every week?
I think so. I
mean, he doesn't have to, even though we do love hearing from him.
Nah, he has to.
He'll definitely have a topic about next week.
Kyle, you have to send stuff in every week. It's the law. Podcast law.
Uh-oh. Are we invoking that?
I'm not going to make it a commandment, but I will make it a law. I don't really know what to say. I mean, that's, you know, nifty to hear the whole history laid out like that super quickly.
It is amazing that we went, what was it, 60, or no, it was right at 60 years, going from powered flight to landing on the moon.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Kyle didn't mention the moon landing because that's technically not aviation, that's rocketry, but...
Yeah, but it's an offshoot of that.
Well, actually, it's right at 70 years because it was 1902, wasn't it, for Orville and Wilbur? So it was right at 70.
But
now that I really think about it.
It's really interesting, you know, this kind of plays into that larger discussion.
Just how quickly technology evolves.
Yes. We spent...
especially when it's not held back anymore.
Yeah.
Because technology is, for a long time, was really held by just a few people in power, but now it's, you know, in everyone's hands.
Well, I mean, we spent thousands and thousands of years relying on, you know, animals and everything being handcrafted, and really with the invention of... Oh, gosh, I don't really know which one invention. I mean, there's some big ones, like the steam engine. That was a huge deal.
Replaceable parts?
Probably replaceable parts is the biggest one that led to industrialization, which is
because before that, it was, you'd have to replace the entire machine, but now you could just order a part of the machine.
Right. Replaceable parts is probably the biggest one that led to industrialization, which led to where we are now. I mean, the rapid technological growth from the 1700s, late 1700s to now is exponentially faster than the last several thousand years of recorded human history.
Yeah, it's just kind of insane just how far we've gone. Just think, within our lifetimes, the two of us, it would have been hugely expensive just for us to talk once.
Yeah.
Now we're able to talk weekly for several hours.
I mean, we talk more than just this because of recording and streaming, and all of that wouldn't have existed either. Even a decade ago, it would have been impossible for us to have done what we were doing without really expensive, specific setups, you know.
Yeah, and what we're doing right now, the podcast, it would have to been a radio show. So it's amazing, even in the last, let's say, decade, just how far things have gone. The march of technology.
Yeah. I'm sure, too, if we really sat down and thought about it, we could think of like huge advancements that have happened in the last year or two.
The ones without Oculus trying to stop them?
Yes, even ones without that. Oh, so tweet time?
I think so. And did start a new thing of the weekly question, which we got a few responses for.
Okay, what was the question from last week?
The question was, what do you plan on picking up or at least watching for during the summer sale? And I did word it a little bit differently, but close enough.
Right, close counts.
Groove said GTA 5, Doom, Tomb Raider, Rise of, Arma Apex, and the Valve Complete Pack. Haywood Floyd is saying he's considering Legend of Grimrock, which is a pretty good, really old style 3D dungeon crawler. And I should comment, GTA 5 is, Rockstar is kind of dicking people over on their sales, just in general.
Did they do something again?
No, but it's not as big a cut as you would expect. Doom, we already talked about. Rise of the Tomb Raider, I didn't even pay attention to. Arma Apex, I didn't pay attention to. And Valve Complete Pack, they changed it to where the more Valve games you have, the cheaper that pack becomes. They use the new bundle model. Or did you know about that?
No, yeah, I knew about that.
Yeah, the Valve Complete Pack obviously is going to be one of those. And then let's see, Kyle chimes in with Galactic Civilization 3, which he already picked up and you talked about.
Yep.
And Just Cause 3 is on his list of possible purchases, which I've heard people say good and bad things about. And it does have one of the newer DRM models, which people have been talking about being uncrackable, which nothing is uncrackable, just given enough time.
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least. It all comes down to just, raw computing power and man hours.
Yeah, I don't think anything's uncrackable.
Short of maybe even server software, but even then, people made custom servers for World of Warcraft, so even that.
Yeah.
But that's not technically cracking, that's more just creating their own stuff, their own backend, which you start getting into the weird gray areas once again. And then really the only other tweets we had was, there was a couple regarding the giveaway, which I'll get into.
Okay.
Kyle was talking about how he agreed slower paced shooters could be fun at times. I just think that the Civil War inspired trench warfare could be boring. Which I think it really comes down to how they handle it and how the mechanics come down. Because if it was they treat it like a corridor shooter, it could be interesting, but it wasn't like that historically.
Did you say was it or wasn't it like?
Wasn't. I don't think it was.
No, it wasn't. I mean, you would storm over the trenches eventually, but it was mostly just sitting in your trench and waiting. Trench warfare existed in the Civil War, the United States Civil War. That was some of the dawn of trench warfare, as we know it in the modern sense. I mean, trench warfare existed in the medieval times, for example, during sieges, but that's a different sort of thing.
Well, you just wait for a dragon to come by and clear out that army.
That's what they do in Game of Thrones, let me tell you. The season 6 finale was sublime. That's all I'm going to say. Some of the best television I've ever seen.
Oh, wait, I haven't watched past season 1 or read past book 1, so I don't care.
I'm a quarter of the way through book 1.
Well, let's just put it this way. People are talking about characters like, I'm not even sure if I know that character or even know that name, so I don't care about spoilers seeing them online. Granted, I know a lot of people are freaking out about spoilers.
I don't really get too worked up about spoilers.
Then, continue on with the tweets as we get way off topic once again and probably get that cut.
Right.
Or you just get lazy and leave it in. Kyle then talks about aircraft carriers were more a Pacific Fleet thing. The Battle of the Atlantic was about subs and destroyers.
That's true.
And he would love to see more naval games. Silent Hunter 3 was one of his all-time favorites, and Silent Hunter 5 seems to have killed this sub-sim. Which, one of my earlier PC games, and I'm not sure if it was the Silent Hunter series or not, was a sub-game. It was more on the simulation side of things, and it was very difficult to actually do anything in it. And I usually just got myself killed more often than not.
Yeah, there used to be... I don't know how many different ones, but several different ones. And then I think now Silent Hunter's it.
Yeah, and I also remember an old full motion video game that they had where it was essentially a graphic novel that you'd make your choice and it'd play a video to lead to the next choice. And there was a lot of times that you'd make the wrong choice and everyone dies. That was a sub-based one. I believe it was called Silent Steel.
Silent Steel, interesting.
If I recall correctly, it was Silent something, which was a lot of sub games, honestly. And Haywood Floyd chimes in 688 attack sub. And then Kyle replies 688 was legit. Wolfpack was my first introduction to the genre on DOS, no less.
You were correct about Silent Steel, by the way.
Oh, okay. I can't recall if it was Silent Steel or something else. Maybe I should go back and look for a copy of that. I imagine that it wouldn't be on GOG or anything. It'd probably be a hell of a time to even get it to play, and it wouldn't be in a good resolution either. Because it was full motion video, so it'd be just a little tiny postcard.
Is this freeware?
It had a freeware version or a shareware version of it that came with my original CD-ROM drive. And I remember you'd get to a point where it would say bountiful version, so I'm pretty sure it was shareware now that I think about it a little bit more. But that was another weird genre and era, the full motion video era, where it was a gimmick, getting back all the way back to Chemist's letter.
Right.
That died off, that you only really see as a gimmick nowadays, because computing power is able to do 3D models a lot better than it used to back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, the only
game that I could think of that's full motion video that's been out recently was the Tex Murray series.
Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer.
They still do the full motion cutscenes.
Okay, but that's more of a gimmick as a callback to their older games, right?
Yeah, they do it both as a callback and kind of as a joke. I mean, they don't take themselves seriously at all.
Yeah, the Tex Murray games is a detective series that's gone on from, I'm pretty sure, the 90s as well. That they had a Kickstarter to make a new one, and it was all full motion video with, I think, some 3D modeling to just tie the full motion bits together. Very gimmicky as well.
Right.
And then, anything else we want to talk about old gimmicks or get on to the giveaway tweets?
No, I think I'm good. Let's get on to the giveaway tweets.
I'm pretty sure this is all the tweets. If I missed someone, I apologize. Because there was a lot of back and forth with Kyle and my likes. Let's see. Haywood Floyd, pre-order games, I presume, which Andrew Mason said, you won't be allowed to join the competition then. And Haywood Floyd, thou shalt not pre-order video games. Saith the scriptures.
Yes, that is right, my children. Echo my commandments. Okay, was that it?
Excuse me while I drink the Kool-Aid.
Delicious Kool-Aid. It's grape and cyanide flavored.
I thought I tasted something.
All right. So what else
That's all I have on the tweets.
Okay, I didn't get any podcast specific related tweets this week. Although I would like to say thanks to my new followers. I'm pretty sure you guys come from the podcast. But enough about reminiscing and more about bullshitting about video games.
All right. I guess that means we're leaving the community corner and ranking episode content.
Yep. Let's go talk about our Steam recommendations for this episode.
Yeah, I actually went up to 6 instead of 5.
That's okay.
I could have went a lot further.
Oh, I could have went much further, but I basically...
This is games that I pretty much fully recommend.
Yeah. So
there's one oddity on this, which I'll get to because it's technically a game I haven't played, but I played the base version of it.
Right. So my idea was I wanted to kind of go up the spectrum. It's like, how much money do you have to spend on a game? here's a good game at any, at various price points. So I started at, the bottom, 49 cents, and then worked my way up to $25. And there were a couple of games I thought about putting on the list, but I have very much talked about them. Like, for example, I considered Rocket League. I considered Doom. But I thought,
Stardew Valley was on here for a short time, but I decided, we already probably talked enough of it by now.
Yeah, so, stuff that I've talked about, stuff that is more mainstream-ish. It's like that, if there's a big game that you're interested in, I'm sure you've already been and looked up the price of it on Steam and have decided whether or not you want to buy it. So these are more of like combination, at least for me, a combination of bargains and then things that you might not have considered.
Yeah, let's see. My most expensive game is just under $13, and with the majority of them being under 10.
Yeah.
So I went for more the bargain basement, really, really good games that I think, unless you're just not a fan of the genre, I think everyone should at least try.
Right. So do you want to alternate? And
Yeah, we
then
can
since
alternate.
you've got an extra one, you can just go an extra time at the end.
Okay. So you want me to kick off, or do you?
You go first. You go first most of the time. Actually, I think if you go
Okay.
first, the alternation will work out perfectly, and you'll just be the one
right.
who wins.
Okay, well, since I know that you love your dick jokes,
Absolutely.
we're going to kick off with Shadow Warrior.
Okay.
Because who does not want a little bit of Wang in their life?
I want a lot of Wang in my life.
Well, then you'd want low Wang. This is
I personally
a
prefer
reboot.
big Wang, but whatever.
No, see, his Wang hangs low. Shadow Warrior is a reboot of a 90s classic. I believe it was 90s, maybe early 2000s. And it has probably the most fun melee combat I've done in a single player, or I shouldn't say single player, a first person game. It is just obscene. It is a lot of fun. It has not a lot of replayability. It does have a horde mode, just high score mode, but the meat of this game is in its single player campaign, which does have a story to it, but it's not terribly serious outside of towards the end where it sort of puts on its serious pants and has a couple really good moments. But it is just over the top, just violence that you would not believe. And let's put it this way: the opening cutscene is the main character Lo Wang driving to a deal, screams singing along to "I've Got the Touch." It is, well, first of all, it's copyright banned in Germany. I know that firsthand because I actually did a series on this.
Nice.
And yes, I may have joined along. But it is just a lot of fun. It runs pretty well. There was a couple hiccups on my system, but my system is also on the lower end of mid-range these days.
Right.
But it also has just a ton of gibbing in it, where the sword will cut through an enemy and create a lot of physics objects. So that's partly the reason for it. But a lot of fun combat. Gunplay is a lot of fun along the ways as well. Just a lot of customization and upgrading to the various guns. And it's using the old style of where you could have 10 guns that you're carrying around. And it is just a blast.
Huge backpacks.
Yeah. I highly recommend this game, and it is also very cheap. It's normally $40, but on sale it goes 90% off. Bring it down to $3.99, and it is just a blast.
All right. Well, my first game is Caster, an older third-person action RPG. It came out in 2009. I've actually mentioned this game before, if you have a good memory. Normally, it's only $2. It's 75% off, so it's 49 cents. So this is my very bottom bargain basement recommendation. It's got... I mean, it's a really bright and colorful game. It plays well on most things because it's so old. It's got a really interesting storyline. It's got some neat features which have become more standard over the years, but such as things like terrain deformation and fully.
Actually, you don't see terrain deformation all that much these days.
Yeah, that's true. But it's a little more common than it used to be. Terrain deformation, destructible environments, that sort of thing. There's a great sense of speed to this game. I mean, your character runs incredibly fast at the beginning, and that's one of the things. Is, go fast, dodge enemies, that sort of thing. So it's
easy there, Sonic. You'll end up in a crappy Final Fantasy game.
I don't want to go fast.
You're trying to.
Gotta go fast. But it's a really fun game that I don't really know what else to say about it without spoiling the story elements too much. It's got a nice semi-non-linear story. It's got missions that you have to do, but for the most part, they can be taken in any order once you get kind of through the first few missions, which are designed to be training missions. And there's a lot of variety in the moves that you can do, the powers that you can unlock, the weapons that you can use. It's a fun game for 49 cents. You definitely can get around a dozen hours or so out of a single campaign playthrough, and you can play through multiple ways. There's kind of branching paths, multiple endings, that sort of thing. So it's a pretty decent little game for 50 cents.
Well, also consider it has Steam trading cards, so the final price will be a lot cheaper than that.
That's true.
Yeah. It's not going to be a free game, but it's damn close.
Yeah, it'd probably, after you sell your trading cards, cost you maybe 20 cents. Maybe a little bit less if it's a good day and you get some better sale prices for it.
Okay, anything else you want to mention about that?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm good on Caster.
Okay, so you're going from your cheapest game to my most expensive game because mine are not in any very particular order.
Right.
Sid Meier's Civilization V Complete Edition.
Uh-huh.
Is there really anything that needs to be said about Civ 5, really? It is several years old at this point, and Civ 6 is on its way out. And within, 6 months? Actually, probably more like 4 months.
Doesn't it release in November? Is that right, or is it October?
I thought it was October, but I could be wrong on that. You could go check.
I don't know. October, November. I mean, they're pretty close to each other, so.
Yeah, within 6 months. We'll just go with that. But Civ 5 is probably the standard now for grand strategy games, just because so many people have taken elements from Civ 5 and used them in their own games.
Right.
You're controlling a civilization, if you don't know. Pretty much from the dawn of history up through modern times and beyond, and trying to win one of, I think it's 7 different ways. Through your culture, your tourism. Well, I'm including the complete pack on this. So tourism, launching a rocket into space and getting the hell off Earth or whatever planet you're on. Or just conquering the world. Because who doesn't want to conquer the world, right?
Absolutely. Conquest.
And I'm sure I'm forgetting democracy, becoming world leader through the UN. And I'm blanking on one.
Did you say cultural victory?
I think I said tourism, but that doesn't really count. I think that the cultural victory changed. So
okay.
In the last expansion pack, which is included in this. The reason why I'm suggesting the complete pack over just the base pack is that the expansion packs, especially the last one, which does include some features from the previous one, just adds so much to the late game. In the base game, the late game is pretty boring, but the expansion packs adds tourism, which adds a new way to win, and you have to try to battle that with your culture, and the two kind of fight it out. Can you make the world listen to your pop music and wear your blue jeans?
Well, if you're the United States, yes, we can.
And it also adds trading, which allows for some more interesting strategy because you do inner civilization trades and essentially prop up weaker cities, or trade with your allies and enemies to try to become a world power through, just trade. And the previous expansion also adds religion, which adds more interesting dynamics to things. I don't think you could conquer the world through religion alone, even though a lot of people have tried. Sorry. But honestly, buying the complete pack is the way to go, just because the base game and the last expansion, Brave New World, is actually more expensive buying those separately than buying the complete pack. And the complete pack offers a lot of different scenario packs and some Civ packs, which does get a little redundant because some of the Civ packs were rolled into some of the expansions. So that does kind of make things a little bit muddy there. But and this price is going to be a little weird as well. The full price for the complete edition is $149.37, but it's also 92% off, bringing the price down to a base level of $12.27. But this is also one of those weird bundle packs that as you own more of the games in it, or more of the parts in it, the price becomes cheaper. So if you own the base version, that takes that price out of it. So at most, it'll be $12.27. For me, because I own everything except like 2 of the map DLCs, it's 87 cents. So it's your price will vary based on what you own, but it is pretty much the golden standard right now until Civ 6 comes out, and we'll see how things change for the turn-based grand strategy game.
Yeah, it's only $9.80 for me. All I have is Civ 5, the base game.
So it'd be a little bit more expensive for you than just getting Brave New World, but you're getting a lot of other stuff with it.
Yeah.
So that's where things kind of change is, do you want the other stuff if you have the base game, which it does offer quite a lot of civilizations, and every civilization plays a little bit differently. Some of them play radically differently from others, but there's usually a little bit of variance, even just between very similar civs.
Right. Okie dokie.
And also, watch out for Gandhi. He doesn't start fights, but boy, does he end them.
He's going nuclear. So my second game is Recettear. It's $4.99. Normally it is $20, so 75% off. Recettear is an interesting mix between a rogue-like, a dungeon, kind of a top-down dungeon crawler-esque type game.
And a management game.
Yeah. So
this was a game I actually considered for my list, but I figured you'd probably have it.
Yeah, so Recettear, it's divided into 2 main portions, which is the item shop management and then the dungeon crawling portion. And you're in direct control of both, but it's got a neat little mechanic, or a neat little kind of gameplay reason where it's like, okay, you're not actually doing the dungeon crawling, but you get to watch the guy who's doing it, and you do get to directly control him as a player, but it's contrived so it's like the little girl's not in danger. And then the roguelike element comes into play because you have to, it's not impossible, but it's incredibly difficult on your first try to actually pay off the debt that you owe to completely own your shop. So it takes multiple goes, because if you lose, you get to start over with... I can't remember how much of your stuff you get to keep, but there's a certain amount of your items.
Your upgrades.
You get to keep all of your upgrades, and there's a certain amount of your inventory.
And I think it's the items that you have on display.
That might be it, yeah, which gives you kind of a head start for the next try. So
essentially, your first playthrough, you're trying to get as many upgrades as you can.
Yeah, I made it pretty far my first playthrough. It took me 2, though, to actually beat it, which you can keep going even after you beat it, but...
Yeah, I think my first playthrough, I got to the first debt, and I missed it by under 1,000 gold, or whatever the currency was, and I got pissed off, and I set it down for the day, and I never picked it back up.
Yeah, I made it pretty far. I got, I think... How many times did I pay the debt? 6 or 7 times before I finally couldn't pay it off. I was in like the hundreds of thousands of gold that I was going to have to pay back.
Yeah, I mean, I just barely missed it, and I was pissed.
Yeah. So it's a fun, cute little game that's not too
And
difficult.
it was that little pissy girl as well that always hugely undercut you. Because she was the last customer. And she wanted something expensive.
Right.
If it was literally any other customer, I was not happy. Granted, I probably wouldn't have made the next debt just because I was cutting the first one so close, but still, it's the principle of the thing.
Yeah.
And also, fuck that little girl. Wait, I just think I ended up on a lot of watch lists.
But yeah, it's a fun game. Definitely worth $5 if you're into management or dungeon crawling or cute anime girls doing cute things. Because, I mean, the main protagonist is a cute anime girl. She's like 8 or 9. So, fun game.
Which, of course, means she's the fetish of several people.
Oh. 8 or 9, that's too young for my anime girl fetish, so I'm out on that one.
Oh, wait. Are we talking realistic 8 or 9 or anime 8 or 9?
I mean, she's a pretty realistic looking anime girl.
Okay. Because remember, anime 8 or 9 is like 17 or 18.
I might go with you on that one on like 12 or 13. 8 or 9, though. I mean,
Well, I think it really depends on the anime as well.
yeah. So, yeah. Oh, how's he going? Oh. I have to cut that one out. Your turn.
Okay, so back to some more kick-ass action.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, this is the game that I've technically not played on my list, but I played the base version of this. Sleeping Dogs, the definitive... there's something for you to cut out as well, or you're just going to leave it in.
Yeah, you know, it makes you look bad. So it's fine.
Sleeping Dogs, the definitive version, or edition. This is Sleeping Dogs with all the DLC involved in it, included, and with a minor graphical upgrade, which honestly, Sleeping Dogs, the original version, looked damn good, especially the water effects on it, the rain. Just driving through Hong Kong after it rained and seeing all the neon was just amazing. And this is also a game I did. Actually, most of my list of games I've played on my channel now that I think about it. Oh, that's just terrible on me, isn't it? But these are also games that I played a lot of. So, maybe there's a correlation there. But Sleeping Dogs, you're playing an undercover cop trying to infiltrate the Triad. And it has a very twisting and turning storyline to it that I will not spoil. And the real strength of the gameplay is the melee combat. It has an Arkham-esque combat system where you're chaining together attacks against essentially just a group of enemies. And it handles it really well. Probably the best I've seen outside of a Batman Arkham game. And there's also environmental takedowns where if you grapple an enemy, which some enemies cannot be grappled, you could take them over to an area and do an environmental takedown to take them out pretty much immediately. And it varies on the location. Some of them you just throw them in a dumpster. Others you just throw them into a AC unit that's on a rooftop somewhere and pretty much kills them, to be perfectly honest. It's very brutal, actually. But it is also a very brutal setting, to be honest. I will say that the gameplay on the second half of the game isn't as strong just because it leans more into gunplay, which makes it feel more like a generic GTA clone, which that's what this style of game is. It's the open sandbox with a storyline, and there isn't a lot to do off the main storyline. There is some stuff. There's cockfighting. Wait for Jared to chuckle.
Okay.
But it's not the type of cockfighting. Wait for Jared to chuckle.
The first time I was chuckling at the fact that you said cockfighting. The second time I chuckled because you said to wait for Jared to chuckle.
You're betting on chickens. There's mahjong, I believe, if I recall correctly, or a type of mahjong to bet on.
I'm sorry, I have a personal story related to the word mahjong that makes me giggle.
Uh-oh. Shall I stop for you to do that?
I had a teacher in high school. She was my calculus teacher. Probably the coolest teacher I ever had. And I don't remember how it came about, but somehow the word mahjong became a euphemism for sex in calculus.
Okay.
It makes me chuckle. Good old Skipper. That's what I called her too. She didn't she was super cool. And if you made it to calculus, she's like, okay, you're smart enough to be in here, whatever. As long as you show me respect, we can have fun while we learn. And I called her the Skipper. I never called her by her actual name.
Yeah, I had a couple of teachers like that.
So,
but while there are small side activities, there's not the huge activity sides that you would expect in a game like GTA. But it is still, the storyline is well worth it. There's a lot of people compare it to the main story to a Quentin Tarantino movie. And the main story is a lot like that. It does include all the DLC, which a good chunk of the DLC for the original game was cheat to pay or pay to cheat, which I'm not sure there's a way to turn that off in the definitive version. It's find a bundle of cash essentially hidden somewhere, which is takes some of the difficulty curve away from the game because you could just buy better cars to be able to run. Oh, there is a street racing thing. I forgot about that. So that is a fairly major side activity. I forgot about the street racing. I really enjoyed the street racing, but that's sort of just so ubiquitous to the genre that you expect it to be there, right?
right, yeah, no, that makes sense.
And that's probably the major side activity now that I really think about it. But all the DLC is there. There is some story content that I didn't play that was sort of a sequel to or a mini sequel to the game that I didn't play because I didn't have the DLC. And there's some pay to cheat stuff that I'm not sure if you could turn off or not, but you could hopefully just ignore it if you want to have the full difficulty of the game, because a lot of it is giving you money to be able to buy better weapons or better cars for the various missions a lot easier than you would in the base game. But overall, it's very worth checking out. It is also not quite as cheap as Shadow Warrior, but it is normally $29.99. It's 75% off, which brings it down to $7.49. If you're a fan of the GTA style games but want something that's completely in a different setting, which this is actually in Hong Kong, like I mentioned before, but you're driving on the opposite side of the road, which makes it feel very weird for the first couple hours. But then again, I usually am on the left to begin with, much like your teacher.
Much like my crazy teacher. I'm struggling to remember his name. I know it started with a P, but that's all I got. Okay, the next game on my list is a game by the name of Turmoil. Turmoil. Turmoil is a kind of tongue-in-cheek management game. So it's got some little jokes and a really kind of silly premise. Well, not premise, but a silly little art style in the way that it kind of handles certain things in the game. But the gist of it is that you are, in the end of the 18th century, you are trying to become an oil baron. And there's a town that's auctioning off land for people to come in and buy to try and drill for oil. So you play in the story mode. Excuse me. And you start out buying really cheap, kind of crappy plots of land. And as you go through, you're bidding against some AI opponents in the kind of the story or career mode. And basically, whoever gets the most money wins, because eventually you buy out the whole town because you made so much money, and now you're the mayor of this town. And,
dude, spoilers!
And you get all of the land. Like, that's the goal. And as you go, the game gets more and more difficult, and it adds in other obstacles besides just trying to find oil, and things get in your way, like rocks or gemstone deposits, which you can collect for additional money, but sometimes they get in the way and mess things up. But it's a really fun, kind of silly game The management stuff is not so important in the beginning, and then by the end of it, you're like, oh my gosh, I mismanaged this this endeavor, lost a whole bunch of money, and now I've gotten passed by one of my opponents, and they're going to become mayor, and I'm not. So it's a fun game. Normally it's $9.99. This one's only 20% off at $7.99. But I had a blast playing this game for the few hours that I've played it, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 or 6 hours. And if you're into management games and also silly things like I am, you would like Turmoil. So back to you.
Oh boy, you're breaking up badly right now.
Interesting. You sound fine to me.
Maybe it's your upload. I don't know. But getting back to the game list, how about a Ubisoft game that doesn't require you playing and actually works?
What? Those exist?
Yes, and it's called Call of Juarez Gunslinger. This is a first-person shooter set in the Old West. So it's kind of a weird one to begin with. Because the Old West is not a setting that's used all that often. And the thing that's really distinctive about this game is how the story is told. It's told by an old bounty hunter sitting in a saloon, basically reminiscing about this long adventure that he had. And the absolute cool thing about it is that you'll hear him describing the adventure and as you go through the level. But then he'll say, wait a minute, it wasn't like that. This happened. And the level would change around you. Such as at one point he talks about going from rooftop to rooftop, and you see these ladders dropping from the sky in front of you, allowing you to go rooftop to rooftop as his narration dictates. It is just a very neat way of handling the theme of the unreliable narrator.
Yeah, I love the unreliable narrator theme.
Well, this may be a game for you because there's a couple points where you're actually playing the same level. Well, there's one point where you're playing the same level 3 times from 3 different perspectives, following what the narrator said, what a boy who read it about that encounter in a little Dom novel read, and what he thinks happened, and then another one of what really happened. And it's just such a cool take on redoing the same encounter, but 3 completely different ways of doing it. It is just a blast. I've said this about all these games, but these are games that I've absolutely loved playing. So, and if you're a fan of an unorthodox first-person shooter with an unreliable narrator, I would say pick up Call of Juarez Gunslinger. And it is a Ubisoft game that you can actually play on Steam.
Yay! I've had Gunslinger on my wish list for a little while.
Yeah, it's also pretty cheap to begin with. It's only $15 to begin with. It's 50% off, so not a huge savings, but it brings it down to $7.49. And it has a lot of the Old West weaponry, so it's a lot of not huge gunfights, but you're against a lot of enemies at the same time. So you're dodging in, reloading, putting your head out, shooting a few people. When I was originally playing it, it felt like almost a light gun game where you're against a lot of people, but they go down very easily.
Right.
But it has the old West weaponry, and you're running into a lot of big names. As a matter of fact, the first level, you're with Billy the Kid, if I recall correctly.
Sweet.
So you're fighting either with or against huge names from the American Old West, with the unreliable narrator on top of things. And as a matter of fact, there's actually one point where the level actually pauses as the narrator gets up to go to the bathroom. And you hear the people that he's telling the story to talk about, do you really think this happened like this? I mean, it's taking the piss out of itself, literally, at that point.
Yeah, I love stuff that does that. So hearing you talk about it is actually making me consider bumping it up higher on my list. Probably not for this sale, but for next time.
Yeah, I would highly suggest it. It's a great different take on a first-person shooter.
Okay, well, next on my list is Homeworld Remastered. So now we're getting out of my kind of more bargain bin and into the more mainstream, slightly more expensive stuff. Homeworld Remastered is normally $35. It's 50% off, making it $17.49.
Well, you went through that one fast. Okay, my next game.
I really don't know what there is to say about Homeworld, really, to be honest. If you're not familiar with Homeworld, the original, it's revered by many as the one of, if not the greatest, space RTSs of all time. It had tons and tons and tons of firsts in the genre, and it's a classic example of...
Oh, it's one of those annoying people online in the comment section?
Yeah, it's one of those. But, it's an example of excellent sci-fi storytelling, kind of space... Not exactly space opera, but just really huge space world that has been... Or sci-fi world that gets developed, and amazing cutscenes and wonderful voice work, and the remastered basically just takes all of that and makes it all better, with better visuals, and it implements the better control system from Homeworld 2 into the original Homeworld, and it adds this neat multiplayer feature where you can mix and match the two games, so you get some interesting matchups with the way that Homeworld 1 and Homeworld 2 handle different ship types. So a whole lot of strategy can be put into place there when you're playing a multiplayer. It's got a decently active multiplayer scene as well, so if you're really into multiplayer games, this is one where that you can actively find people to play with. So, I mean, it's, if you've played the original Homeworld and you don't own this, as long as you've got a PC that can handle it, you should buy it. It's amazing. It makes Homeworld the way you remember it. It's a remaster that's done really well. So, you should buy it.
Well, I put it on my wish list, at least.
All right. Your turn.
Okay, well, going from the depths of space to how about something a little more down to earth? With Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I'm not able to really talk a lot about this because this is a very story-heavy game, and it's also a very short game, which is part of the reason why I would say that I'm not 100% convinced that it's worth the $15 price tag just because it is so short. It's one of those gray areas, once again, where the impact of the gameplay.
Yeah.
How much do you want to pay per hour for quality gameplay?
Yeah, you can play through Brothers in, 2-3 hours?
I would say probably about 3 hours, including the learning curve with it, because it handles very oddly. You're controlling both brothers at the same time, and it strongly recommends a gamepad, which I would say that it's not a requirement to play with it, but it makes life a lot easier. You essentially have an action button for each brother and a thumbstick for each brother. The actions being the triggers. And there's not a spoken, not a intelligible word spoken in this game. It's all done through essentially pantomime and almost, for lack of a better term, Simish, where there's talking, but you really can't make out what they're saying. But you still get the gist of it based on context and just how they're miming things out. But the very beginning of the story, I will say that, is that your two brothers trying to get a cure for your sickly father. And you have a lot of twists and turns in the few hours of gameplay. A lot of emotional highs and a lot of emotional lows. And it has... Well, the ending sequence I will not spoil, but it is just amazing for a reason that I don't think you would be able to say otherwise or experience otherwise until you play it. Even watching it, you don't get the full impact. You have to play it.
Yeah, I've played Brothers, and it's the best example I've ever seen of telling a unique story that can only be told by playing a video game. And, I mean, I can't really say anything more than that because, there's so much story stuff.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
The ending sequence.
Yeah.
So let's get off this before we spoil it. It's normally, like I said, $15. It's 90% off right now. bring it down to $1.49. It is. I think that's well worth it. It's well worth more than that. I would say it's a $5 game to me, just for length of gameplay and quality of gameplay. But
Yeah.
that's a steal.
Personally, as someone who values story content in games, I think that this game is worth the full price of $15.
Well, I'm also a cheapskate with a long backlog.
That's true. But, I've talked at great lengths about how much I, would go, want to pay for story content, and I think that this game is worth the full price. So, at this price, it's a no-brainer.
It's a steal.
Yeah, unless you're just...
Yeah, go. Unless you absolutely hate story heavy games or really emotional games, because it is a very emotional game. It plays on both the highs and lows of emotion. If you hate that, then don't get this game. Otherwise, go spend $1.50.
Yeah.
This is my highest recommendation of my list. Everything else is kind of niche, or if you like this, you'll enjoy this. Go get Brothers.
Yeah. Okay. So my last game on my list, is State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition. I've talked about State of Decay before. The gist of State of Decay is that it's a zombie survival game where you are the leader of a group of survivors, and you have to establish a small colony and live there and provide food and building materials and things like that, and you can build it up not exactly however you want, but there's lots of options to choose from. It's got an interesting and compelling story that drives you through the game, and the Year 1 Survival Edition includes all of the DLC, which has a second storyline. So in the original storyline, you play as a group of survivors. In the second storyline, you play as the military and their first response to the zombie apocalypse. So one story is very much kind of surviving by the seat of your pants, at least until you get a little ways in. The other story, you have lots of really high-tech and powerful military equipment, which leads to two very different play styles, and they both revolve around the same story. So in the original story, you meet up with some of the military guys and talk to them, and in the DLC you play, or the expansion, you play as the military guys, meeting up with the survivors. So interesting way that they handle the story there. Plus, it's got an endless mode that's part of the... originally it was DLC, now it's included with this, where there's no story. The goal is just to survive, and it's kind of horde mode-esque, and you level up in difficulty. You have to find parts to fix up your RV so that you can progress to the next level, which resets the map, drops you off at a different random point, and asks you to reestablish a living space and then go find new parts to do it all over again. So it's a very fun game. The amount of content that's in it is easily worth $25. The Survival Edition was basically an HD remaster that they put together for the Xbox One.
I'm seeing a lot of people complaining about it being essentially a paid update.
Basically, that. Really, it's just a bundle of all of the stuff together, and it works properly at full HD resolutions, because it had some weird issues running at anything over 1080 and occasionally at 1080 previously, and some minor graphical updates and things like that. So they sadly did not fix very many of the bugs that played the original game, so it is still a bit buggy. If
that's another complaint, is that pay for the bug filled edition.
So it's still worth it, in my opinion. It gives you all of the excitement and freedom of DayZ without having to deal with assholes online.
Oh, well, that makes it sound a lot better.
Yeah. So that was my last game. Normally it's $29.99. It's 15% off, so $25.
Okay, my last game, since we screwed up the order. But going from the stress of zombie survival to the serene open road with Euro Truck Simulator 2. This was my chill out and listen to podcast game. Well, until Stardew Valley. Are you there still?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you just got really quiet on me.
No, I mean you're talking, and I haven't played Euro Truck.
Well, usually
so.
I could at least hear something. But I was making sure you didn't doze off on me.
No.
Because remember, dozing off on the open road is very dangerous.
Yes, it is.
But this is essentially you're driving a truck around Europe. I mean, this is a lot tougher for me now because I had a British company, and this is Euro Truck Simulator.
I see what you did there, getting all political again.
I couldn't help myself. I saw the fake articles about Euro Truck Simulator removing Great Britain from its game, and I had to go with it. Especially since I actually do have a British company in the game. But it is technically a management game, even though the management side of things is very, very basic. I wish that it was more fleshed out, to be perfectly honest. It's basically you hire truckers and let them level up with you. And you do have a leveling system as you progress. You're able to get longer and longer hauls across Europe. At the point I'm at, I'm able to go from Great Britain to somewhere around Austria, sorry. Not Australia. That
I was
would be
going to say, how in the
haul.
heck are you driving all the way to Australia?
Waterproofing.
Okay.
Austria. I could go from Austria to Great Britain. So that's probably about an hour-long trip at Euro Truck Simulator's scale. And it's just a very relaxing game. You know, just turn on, listen to the rain in game because you get set to be rainy almost all the time. And it does the weather effects really well as well. It just chill out. The base game is $22.99. Normally, it's 70% off, which brings it down to $6.89. And it has a bucket load of DLC. A lot of it cosmetic, but there are 2 expansions for it. Scandinavia, which I don't have, which is normally $19, but it's 70% off, which brings it down to $5.69. Wait for Jared to chuckle.
I'm not going to do it. I refuse.
You started to there, though.
I'm going to cut it out. No chuckles.
But in going east, which includes, further into Eastern Europe, which is $12 normally, it's 70% off, which brings it down to $3.59. And the expansions, of course, adds more areas to explore, and the expansion areas are a lot higher quality. They took a lot more time to make the areas pretty. Not saying that Euro Truck's base areas are ugly, but you could tell that they took a lot more time with the expansion content. And it really shows. And they are working on a 3rd expansion, which is focusing on southern France. And that's pretty much it for Euro Truck Simulator. It's just a chill out and drive around game.
Kind of like Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, wait for Jared to chuckle.
I was already chuckling.
Wait for Jared to stop chuckling.
I'm done.
Okay. Well, that's my list.
Sweet. So that's
11
each of our
games.
lists.
11 games total.
Indeed. So go
And
buy all
hopefully
those.
something for a little bit of everyone.
Hopefully, yeah. Like I said,
I mean,
I tried to hit.
I did kind of lean on the FPS because I have 2 FPSs,
Well, I don't
but
have
2 very different ones.
I didn't have any FPS, did I? No. Like a third-person action RPG, weird mishmash of Recettear, management game, RTS, third-person shooter.
Let's see, I had 2 FPS, but they're vastly different FPS. Turn-based strategy, GTA-style open-world game. Very unique game in Brothers. Technically, I would call it an adventure game if I had to put it in a genre. and Simulator and Euro Truck.
Yeah, so pretty diverse. Well, that is
We're not going to trigger anyone this week. Oh, wait.
I'm sure we will. Excuse me. So that was our last topic, which means that it's time to move on to our closing statements, our closing arguments for why something about court and jail.
Object.
So, Rach, what's going on with your channel this week? Your content?
I'm pretty much just in standard playing through mode. I've hit another wall with my A block, which is The Last Remnant. Oh, I'm starting to wonder, when is the point I'm supposed to like Rush?
I told you, if you don't like him now, you'll never like him. He's the way he's going to be for the rest of the game.
Well, it's not really spoiling anything because if you're watching along with my content, which I really hope someone is. Granted, I do have someone that looks like they're going through my Ghostbusters feed. I'm getting several comments from there, so someone's enjoying Ghostbusters at least.
Ghostbusters!
Which is probably about the only way anyone could enjoy Ghostbusters this year. Sorry, everything I've seen in that movie just looks horrible, which makes me a terrible, terrible sexist.
No, that's the trigger right there. You're a sexist.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But he's become overly protective of his sister now. Yeah. To the point of being a douche. And he does kind of redeem himself in the last episode that I recorded, but it is... I'm not sure if it's just I don't like Rush in general, or... Which I do like a couple of Rush's songs now that I think about it. Sorry.
I love Tom Sawyer.
But in the second time slot, I have the interactive adventures of Dog Mendoza and Pizza Boy, and I think I actually pronounced his name correctly this time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. I've looked at it a few times trying to figure out how to pronounce it.
Well, it has a weird thing on one of the letters, but they do say his name a few times, and I still mispronounce it because I forget it. It's been a fun time so far. It's definitely not the 90s style point and click adventure where, you die very often and it could get stuck easily. It's a weird middle ground. It has the old LucasArts art style, but it's not been terribly difficult for me to progress through it. I have gotten stuck a couple of times for, 10 or so minutes, but not long enough for me to, get frustrated and go look up how to progress.
Right.
And I will say, sometimes the voice acting is a little off, but I think that's more of it being translated and it being a small company that did this game than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's been so far worth playing. Has it annoyed me at all? Well, okay, it's annoyed me a little bit, but that's mostly just point and click logic. Let's put it this way, there's a point coming up in next week's episodes where I have to deal with a boarded up window, and I have the option of using a hammer.
Okay.
The hammer is not the correct tool for this.
I was gonna say, I'm sure in classic point and click logic, the obvious tool is not the actual tool.
Yeah, and I have to go back several screens to trade in the hammer for another object. And that portion of the game felt very obviously padded because of having to go back several times. Even if you know exactly what you need, you still have to go back, I'd say, at least 2 screens, if not 3, depending on where you are, to trade out tools to get the proper one to progress, and it was very frustrating. That's about been the worst part for the game for me, but that's like the last episode that I recorded.
Right.
But overall, it's been pretty good. It's definitely not Telltale styles of point and click, which honestly, with how Telltale has gone lately, is not necessarily a bad thing. What can I say? I just don't care with how Telltale's gone.
I like the Telltale stuff now, but, I can understand if you don't like it.
And of course, we have our Terraria stuff on Wednesdays and Fridays.
Absolutely.
Or sorry, Wednesdays and Saturdays for me. Not Fridays. Fridays is the interactive adventures. And we are progressing somewhat.
We are. We're
a couple of exploration episodes once again, but yeah, that's how Terraria really goes, really. Yeah, we sit around and bullshit, much like the podcast. It's a video version of the podcast, essentially, only without all the editing.
Yeah.
That Jared doesn't do because he gets lazy.
Yep, definitely lazy.
And podcast on Fridays, naturally, and the Sunday Sampler, which I have no idea what I'm going to do because I'm in the middle of the summer slump. There's no releases this week. Well, I shouldn't say that. There is one release. I'm not guaranteed to get a review copy of it. And honestly, who is dumb enough to release a game on Steam during the summer sale? Because you're just going to get buried. Well, besides that one game.
Right. So where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube or on Twitter at Gaming with CR, where I occasionally post things there as well. And I also post random things on the official Twitter, which we'll get to in a little bit for the podcast.
Right. Well, for me, coming up,
Lots of Terraria?
yeah, lots of Terraria. I've rendered... How many Terraria videos have I rendered? 9?
Lots of them.
8 or 9?
Yeah, you're something like 10 episodes behind
They all have to be uploaded. I've also got streams from the last few weeks coming over to the YouTube channel, so it'll be a flurry of every day to every other day stuff being posted, which is all me just getting caught up on all of our other stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm closing in on episode 30.
Yeah, something like that.
And granted, that is me accidentally skipping an episode along the way just because of video corruption.
Right.
And not catching it at the time. But and also, I noticed that my subscriber count, I lost like 6 subscribers. I'm not sure if that's YouTube being YouTube or if I got a lot of people fed up with me, which is also very possible.
I can never be fed up with you.
Well, you say that now, but I'm not trying.
We've been together a long time at this point, doing this show and other things.
My.
So even if you're
You
not
make it sound so
trying-
dirty when you say it like that.
Oh, baby. Been together for such a long time. But so yeah, I want to do something fun with Rocket League. And I mean, there's a million Rocket League things out there. I don't really care. I like to do...
and it's really hard to do something. Do live commentary with it. You pretty much have to do post.
Yeah, but I mean, I like it. It's fun. I enjoy it. It's going to be something that I keep playing. So I like to do stuff with the stuff that I play, regardless of how popular it is or how saturated it is. I have no idea what that's going to be, though. Probably it'll be something simple, at least in the beginning, that's like clips or whatever, like whenever there are some good games or I do something crazy completely by accident.
You're going to need a montage.
Yeah, I'll do some montages or something, but I don't know. It's just fun. I like to do... I mean, all of my content is fueled by things that I do for fun. So...
Yeah, that's pretty much my content as well, because if I wanted to be popular, I wouldn't be playing, JRPG from, 10 years ago? Point-and-click adventure that nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Random indie game that no one's heard of. Even though the Sunday Sampler does get some hits that are just huge spikes, and I don't understand that. I have Solitarica, which is a game I never expected anyone to click a view on, is sitting just under 200 views right now. I have no idea why.
Magic. Dark magic.
I mean, granted, 200 views on YouTube is nothing, but it's a lot for me.
Yeah.
Especially at my channel size. It's weird.
So that's my stuff. You can find me on the interwebs over on YouTube by searching for Gaming Psychologist. You can find me on Twitter at JMA4707 and streaming over on Twitch Wednesdays and Fridays, as long as no one in my house is sick, at twitch.tv/
And you don't have the plague.
Yeah, and I don't have the plague myself. At twitch.tv/jarthur4707. You can also be my friend on Steam. It's jarthur4707. I will blindly accept anyone who sends me a friend request and assume that from this point on, you guys listen to the podcast. So you can feel free to chat with me anytime that I'm playing. Depending on...
be sure to tell them the code word, which is, for this week, kneecap.
I will never remember that, ever.
I just want random people to send you the word kneecap.
I mean,
I have no idea where the word kneecap came from in my head. It just did.
I mean, I'm fine with that, but yeah, feel free to chat with me. Depending on what game I'm playing, I might not respond, but there are very few games that I won't actually actively pause and respond to people I'm chatting with. So, yep.
And remember, kneecap.
Kneecap.
Maybe it's just I'm over caffeinated right now.
Maybe. I'm definitely feeling the sleep start to set in, so it's a good thing that we are now time to thank the people that we thank and bring up the email and all that jazz, which is your job.
Yeah, and let's first thank the Internet Archive for unknowingly hosting us and putting up with our nonsense. Once again, unknowingly. Because they are awesome. But if you want to get us off the Internet Archive so we stop mooching off of them, you can help support us with our Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/VGL podcast, which we're still trying to figure out exactly where to go hosting-wise because we are an anomaly, just podcast size.
Yep. The only other podcast that I'm aware of that's this size is the Co-Optional Podcast, and they have lots of money to not worry about.
Yeah, they have the YouTube money to begin with.
Yeah, so we're doing our best, though, I promise.
Yeah, we'll figure it out somewhere along the line. I do have an option if it comes down to it, but it's very unoptimal, and it would require a lot of hackery on my side to make it work. Or either my side or Jared's side, but let's be honest, it'll be my side because it mostly involves the show notes.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be your job.
So, yeah, that would be fun to try to figure out. But it would be well within our price range. Unfortunately, like I said, it just requires a lot of hackery, and there's no guarantee that it would continue to work. And that's the reason why we haven't jumped on that yet. But if you wish to send us a message and tell us about any other podcast possibilities that we could work on, or if you have any questions, letters, tweets, random death threats for Jared, the word kneecap, or if you want to join the contest that we talked about about 3 hours ago that you may have forgotten about, then you could do so over at vglpodcast@gmail.com or just tweet us over at vglpodcast.
Right.
And our website, of course, you get the RSS feed over at VGL Podcast. Video Game Logic Podcast.blogspot.com. See, that's the anomaly in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell who set up the blog?
That was me.
But we are also on iTunes and Google Play and whatever random podcast site Jared's found that he's plugged us into.
I've added a few random ones.
Yeah, just search Video Game Logic, and if we pop up, great.
If we don't,
our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at Incomputech.com. And as the music...
I'm leading you in. I know.
I'm leading you into it.
You're supposed to leave it for me to pick it up and go all the way with it.
I'm leading you into it.
I'm just going to ignore you and cut you out. As his wonderful music starts to roll across
your
my voice. Oh, damn you. I'll just mute that section. Bye-bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.